think we got it.
Hey, what's going on, Chris?
Saturday night. I do see some people have already said they're coming, so I guess we'll just let them populate in the room. So, is it wet down there? It's kind of gnarly up here.
Yeah, it's like all the snow is melting right now. A couple of
Right.
guys slipped. They were just like walking by us, and they just like one guy just face planted right in front of us. Super slippery.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's the situation out there? How's everything around you right now in general?
So we got this place we get set up on the 24th, since Russia likes their symbolism, but nothing extremely crazy happened here. So everything's as normal as can be, I guess, in Kramatorsk.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Syrian crematoriums. Here in Kiev, we had no air raids yesterday, which was what people were expecting. We had two brief air raid alarms today, and I saw no particular knowledge of what happened with it. And for those who don't know about it and think about it, like the air raids go off if there's a detected launch or potential launch with a bomber in the air. Um, I do know that one of our intel friends, not to get all OSINT on it, said that several ships had moved along from Sevastopol to the Black Sea, I believe, and said that there was, these were the type that could do missile launches, so be alert. So that said, what I wanted to do is kind of talk with you about this past year as we head into another cycle of this war. About photographer to photographer to people that have been here and have been here in different capacities. Essentially about how we've seen what we've seen here, especially in this case, outsiders. I definitely would like to talk to some Ukrainian photographers as well, but because I already knew you and I like the work you've been doing, I wanted to go there. So first off, when did you first come here to do photography?
So I landed in Warsaw on like April 10th or 11th or something like that. I left home April 10th, and then I was able to get into Ukraine April 14th, and so no, April 16th. Sorry. Yeah, so I've been here ever since. I haven't really left for Poland or any other country. That's the great thing about being a photographer in Ukraine is that if you do apply for a press card, um, yeah, I mean, you could stay until the end of the war, apparently. About a month after I came in, it was May, I think. That's when Zelensky's office announced that everyone, any press individual can stay for the extent of the war. Yeah, so that made things a lot easier.
Yeah, so when you get to the audience, when you get an Ministry of Defense accreditation pass, which he has and I have, essentially there is a law that I've even had to invoke at the border a couple of times where things go slow. I was like, no, 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 look, like, because they're like, you're a little bit over your 90 days. Like, yeah, I'm very over the 90 days. I got it. And now my
90
Ukrainian's better. So
days.
like, yeah, yeah. So now my Ukrainian's pretty good. So I'm, in this one area because all I have to do is go, yeah, Rosamil. Like I understand, but then I point to the law and it gets solved because essentially, yes, it says press, and I think it's end of hostilities plus 90 days was the language I remember. But so April, okay. I have a
Oh,
pretty
I
good
wasn't
map
I
of where
wasn't
it
aware of
is.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Go
get
ahead.
you get a plus 90 days after the
I
end
think
of
that's what the
hostility. You just
original
said.
one said, and I'll take a fresh look so we
Interesting.
see exactly what that is because you have rep up period. You have the time where you have to clean up. What you learned. So you get here in April. That's a pretty good haul back. What was the first impression when you hit the country? You drove in, I assume, somehow.
Yeah, so we loaded up this humanitarian van. I worked with.
Check your audio. Hold on. Let's see. I can't hear your audio. Saphryn. There we go.
We bet.
Try again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Try again. So came in
Okay, awesome.
with the. That's okay. Came in with the
Yeah, I came in
worker.
with
Yeah.
the humanitarian aid mission essentially. Um, and they're called BCA Poland, an amazing organization. They've donated, or they've sent in aid worth, probably they've probably hit their $10 million mark. Uh, I think it was 10 or 20 million. It was in a conversation. I should have written it down. Apologize for not doing that. But yeah, it's just millions and millions of dollars of humanitarian aid. It's amazing. But one of their vans was going in, so I took that, crossed the border with it, and then at the border, it was right around Easter weekend, or the week of Easter. So a bunch of Ukrainians were trying to get back into Ukraine to see their families, and um, coming from the States and Japan, I didn't know Easter was such a big thing, and I guess that's a huge thing in Europe. So yeah, we picked up like two Ukrainians at the border, a grandmother and a grandson. He was like 7, I want to say. But yeah, we crossed the border with them. It was really cool.
So, I posted up in the nest an example of it's not actually the first photo I took. It was actually the last photo as we were leaving the camp there in Medica. And this photo was actually the cause of a huge life change. I'll go into another space, except for the person I was with did not like that I stopped to take this photo. And the purpose, you're a photographer, I'm bouncing this off of you. The purpose of my moment there was I was actually about to get in the vehicle, and I noticed that there were four people, meaning that three were in the picture, one's taking the picture, or then they would rotate out. And again, three people in the picture, one person missing. And I thought in this context that was not appropriate. So I just,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, you see. So I said, oh, but let's go. Let me see your phone. So here you go. Oh, you want it on the second phone? Okay, here you go. May I have one? And sure. So I took a shot. That's as long as it took, and I wound up. It's another story, another day why that turned into a conflict with somebody. I was correct. Here's the photo. That photo will be with me forever. So now, I had already been in Ukraine for a month before, but to me, this is where it starts, right? So that's including what we're talking about with 24th being yesterday. So I know you ran into the area. Do you have photos, even if you don't have them posted? You have some photos at that time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, my mic was on.
That's okay.
Um, yeah, I have all kinds of photos of that time. There was this one
Yeah.
family that I was with. Oh my God, they were awesome. They live in
Mm,
Rivne Oblast,
sure, sure.
and yeah, it's a huge family. I forget how many. It was like 10. They have like 8 kids, and I think they had their ninth or something like that. So they're in the double digits now as a family size. Um, and they've adopted several kids as well. This is this giant family in Rivne Oblast, and it was funny. um, I took photos of these other kids playing around the supermarket that we were staying in, and I made sure that there was no military sort of object or individual in the shot. It was like my first, 2 days in Ukraine, so I'm super nervous about like how people react. And I'm an amateur, and so I don't know all of the rules. And I didn't have my press card then, so I was being very careful. But I took a photo of these kids, and down the line, a follower of mine messaged that they were from Rivne as well, because I was mentioning it in a post. And so I sent her a photo of these kids, and I was like, "Do you? This might sound like a stupid question, but do you recognize them?" And like it blew her mind. She was like, "Oh my God, that those are my neighbors." And by that time, I was in like deep into in Donbass, and so yeah, it's just like being all the way on the other side of Ukraine, while somebody who follows you notices their neighbors in your shot, like
Yeah.
on the other side of Ukraine. It would just kind of blew my mind. It was like, wow, what a small place when you really think about it like that.
Yeah, and actually, I had that happen recently with someone that I knew in a completely different capacity was going through my photos and saw one of the funeral shots where the name plaque is on the cross. And he looked in closer. He goes, "Wait a minute. Do you hold on? Read it. Can you get a bigger version of that?" He goes, "Oh, I know this guy." And so I picked up the picture that you'll see at the funeral of the fallen soldier. He goes, "Oh my God, yeah, I know this guy very well." So yeah, it doesn't take long for certain lines to come together. So you saw these families in that situation. How did they receive you?
Oh my God, they were extremely kind. I have so many memories from that family, but man, the youngest kid, um, the youngest kid, he's like 3. Uh, he could barely. Matvi is his name, and he could barely speak. But he showed me where they stashed the ice cream, and he was like, "Hey, come." He gave me a little bit of ice cream, and then he like squirreled me in like away toward the back of the house where they have this big fridge. And so he opens like the bottom drawer of the fridge. He's like, "Look, don't tell anyone. I know where the ice cream is." That memory will stick with me forever. Like it was unreal.
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah, and the amount of greeting that goes on here can be really the number one reason why someone stays. What was the first item of some devastation you saw, either an attack or post-attack? Do you remember?
um, I remember seeing this, visiting this one bunker they had in the middle of this farm. And they said, yeah, like, half of the villagers in that area, like, just huddled up together under this bunker. Um, and in my mind, the war it's happening now. It's fresh. It's new, and no one's in this bunker. And I'm thinking, okay, well, why is this place not getting shelled? Well, like I had no idea what the sort of war situation was like. But yeah, when you're in Western Ukraine, Rivne, it does get missile attacked, like attacked by missiles, etc. Long range rockets, whatever it is that they have at the time. But it, you know, like out east or south, yeah, it's super real. Um, like on a physical level, that difference is a huge sort of like bridge, I think, for Ukrainians to cross because the psychological damage in the West is probably very heavy, and then in the East, the physical damage probably outweighs lots of the psychological. I don't know. That's the way I see it so far. But yeah, it was a huge difference uh, seeing Western Ukraine and then coming into Kharkiv. Kharkiv was the first place I went to, and yeah, met an amazing buddy out there, a friend of a friend back home in Japan, and we got to know each other very well. He runs a team, Last Mile Warriors, and they delivered medical aid all winter and spring, and I was with them until mid spring. Um, yeah, and that was the first sort of team that I documented, and I learned a lot about all of the ways in which I wasn't documenting people, so I'm trying to get better. Trying to get better.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think that's a great opportunity for both of us. I had done a lot of things in America that seemed to run what a photographer would do. I didn't do like wedding photography until November, and that's the only time I will do it. I don't really do that, but I've done a lot of other type of photography, including conflict that was riot oriented with tear gas, etc. This is an entirely different situation. Um, and so I know you had obvious skills before you came here. Tell me about trying to find your way into that story there, number one, and then what did you learn that you were missing?
Um, whew, there's this one. Like I was trying to figure out what would be the most effective single thing that I could do within the 3 weeks to a month or whatever it is that I was going to have with them. Um, and you know, when you come out to a place like Ukraine, and all of a sudden you find yourself as a uh, photographer who is only doing photography. Like I had an English teaching job back home, and before that, I was working as a solar developer at an international sort of American built but Japan based company in my little town. When you're out here documenting every single situation within this war that tells some kind of story about, yo, this is happening right now in Ukraine. Um, all of a sudden, I thought I was this social media, like, anything social media. It's like it's not that difficult, but yeah, but when you start relying on that, when you start seeing sort of the effects of that, the way that people use that to raise funds to literally like save the life of like these three specific people and these two specific villages because they need a very very particular kind of medicine, for their heart or whatever it is. And this group of guys, the Last Mile Warriors, the group of people, sorry, they were somehow able to source like exactly what everyone needed, and so requests kept coming in. They were doing this amazing job, and all that time while they were working, they were also showing me places. And so here I am from like two regular ass jobs um, in Ukraine, all of a sudden, like documenting, homes that were shelled, like the specific location in the garden where the homeowner died,
Mm.
getting bitten by the homeowner's dog,
No.
because yeah, the dog was like stressed out, like he bit my leg and
Okay.
he bit
Yeah.
into it pretty well, but his owner was gone. Like no one's there regularly. He hasn't been off the chain for probably a while,
Mm.
because the neighbors aren't just going to come and take care of everything, right? They've got their own sort of mid-war crisis going on as well.
Right.
Um, yeah. So yeah, it was crazy. I came back home and I sent out a message to my family saying like it's been what 2 days. I've documented the delivery of this like really crucial aid to a warehouse, and then from that warehouse we followed like a church member who delivered it to the church. Um, we saw at a different church like locals who literally will be eating that food that came all the way from Poland.
Right.
Like they'll be eating that night, right? Like
Yeah.
it's,
That's what we
yeah,
saw in
it's
Zoom. Yeah, in
unbelievable.
Zoom, everyone's getting it's going home to have it right then. It was only a little over a week since liberation, so they were happy to see all those boxes. Exactly. Um, when you're in some of those moments, did you said there were things that escaped, like that you didn't know what to do until later. Can you give me an example of one where you go, oh, next time I'll do the following?
Sorry, my mic button was having a
That's
hard
okay.
time there. Yeah, so as I'm following this group of guys, I'm providing them with all kinds of photos, a little bit of footage here and there, but whatever it is that they do online to raise awareness of their works so that they can get funding. Um,
Right.
I started realizing like these were just not some nice photos. So the first thing I did was I had a photo op with them, like a photo shoot, and I took a photo of their entire team together, wearing bulletproof jackets, which they do when they go out to deliver the medicine.
Right.
Um, so, and they actually gave me my first bulletproof jacket as well, my first vest. And so I took a group photo of that, and immediately like they used that on the website, and all on all of their social media channels, and like I was really proud of that. And a lot of people started asking, "Hey, how do I help these guys? How do I help these guys?" And I'm like, like I don't know. Here's their PayPal account that they just made. There was a
Right.
Ukrainian guy make he was working in PayPal, and the second this war broke out, he asked PayPal like, "Hey, can I have a team to port PayPal in Ukraine, make it
Right.
available?" And the team was like, "Yeah, go to it." And the guy I was staying with is a personal friend of his, so so you got like an early access to PayPal like set up, and yeah, it was really cool that I was able to help in one or two ways. Um, but I quickly realized like if you're going to affect someone's wallet essentially, and someone's will to sort of give to Ukraine, give to volunteers, give to military, give to the people who are actually in need, um, then video does it best. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, like, oh shit, maybe I didn't come with the right weapons. Like that's the video is not a skill that I have, you know.
It's
So
actually
I'm working.
trickier than people think because I actually am very easily comfortable with stills. When I'm doing video, I know how to do video, but I'm very reliant upon specific tripods. I didn't bring to Ukraine. I'm using sort of like off the shelf tripods that they have here, and my gimbal. And I'm not great at it. I basically have to make it work for what I'm doing. So I don't put myself for hire. But when it comes to stills, I have a lot more control over what's going on. Do you have,
Yeah, I'm exactly.
yeah, and it's a different responsibility. Do you have times where the some mechanical mess ups were really clogging your gears at all the wrong time?
Mechanical mess ups or clogging the ears. You said?
Clogging your gears, like in other words,
Oh,
you had
clogging my gears.
yeah,
Uh,
you throw a battery in
yeah,
you thought was fully
yeah,
charged, it was not, shit like that.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely, absolutely. I have a. This is a little bit like camera stuff, but I have a Sony A7 III, and I bought this um, on loan in Japan. This was like 4 years ago, something like that. It's all paid off and everything, but when you buy it on loan, you get the Japanese version of this camera. And Sony, as wonderful and you know sort of earth shattering as they are, they do these really stupid limiting things. And so in Japan, getting a loan and then getting a camera with that loan, you'll get the Japanese version, and Sony's Japanese version is only in Japanese. I
Wow.
speak Japanese. I cannot read it to save my life. Like I'll try, and there's setting after setting after setting, and I'm like, man. So this however many $1,000 camera, like I can't customize it the way I want to, and I just have to shoot with really really basic settings. And that was like that was like an exercise in discipline, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still sort of like complaining about my camera gear.
Yeah, well, like, also there's times where I've got the camera misbehaving and I've got the attention of a high up enough person that I can't be messing around on any kind of things. And I've got a cable it's just not quite connecting into the mic slot, or I'm having some, light flickering that I'm gonna have to dial out. It's taking me longer than I would want. Um, and
There's
yeah,
incoming right now. Um, it's probably not. Sorry, just real. It's probably
Roger.
not too close. But yeah, the building was shaking for a while there. It
Okay, good
was.
copy of that. Yeah, you stay safe first.
Oh,
Are they bracketing?
yeah, it's a little bit rackety. That was how many barrages was that, Dave? Oh shoot, it's still going. It's still going.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's Kramatorsk is a city in the east, and
sure.
it's only about 36-ish kilometers away from Bakhmut. And Bakhmut is getting flattened right now from from both sides.
Yeah,
Um, and the bombing that we're hearing, the shelling that we're hearing right now, is most likely uh, Konstantinivka or Chasiv Yar. And
Right.
Konstantinivka and Chasiv Yar, both of those little towns right outside of Bakhmut, were stabilization points in this war. And the Kazakh teams, they're usually military, just like super basic training, basically trained medics within the military who know how to check if a tourniquet's on properly, could administer painkillers if needed, etc. They'll Kazovac, so they'll literally like bring casualties and injured people from the front line to a place where medics can work on them and stabilize them. So those, we just call them stab points apparently. Um, but these stab points are in Chasiv and Konstantinivka. And the Russians know all about it, and there are fewer and fewer and fewer stab points within those two cities because they keep on getting shelled. Um, so, so yeah, that's a weird thing about war that I wasn't aware of. Um, when the stabilization point is further out, there's a delay in professional medical care. So if it's
Mm,
20 minutes further than before, then that's 20 more minutes, pretty much with a high possibility of death until you get
right.
some professional care. So it strains the Ukrainian effort to defend itself as an existence. Yeah.
Well, I know when Andrea and I went to Donetsk 4 weeks ago to deliver the truck to the team down there that we knew. Um, we were just probably 20K outside of Volhedar North, roughly, sort of in between there,
Boy.
um, and Bakhmut. And you could hear you could hear the artillery boom in the distance as we were talking and recording. The video for that will come out here shortly. I'm trying to catch up on video, but the ambulances coming back in clusters, was notable compared to other areas that um, not as active. I mean, active at different times, but definitely hot in that area. When you're in that moment, tell me or tell the audience basically, share with us the when is the camera up and when is the camera away for you?
Woo! Wow. Uh
Because in my situation, there's
Damn,
camera
can
up,
I can I ask
camera
you,
away.
like, do you, wait, say that again? Say that again?
So, because in my life, in my life here for a year, there's camera up and camera away moments that are just fairly
Okay, so
obvious.
you have that kind of built into your MO, like where it's like, okay, right now is an off camera kind of time, like that's clear
Yeah,
for you.
well, it's more that there are times where I'm moving boxes even, or it's just like
Right, right.
I've got shots, jump in, move some boxes. I know when we had some missile attacks here and in Lviv, I was more focused on Babushi running down the, not running down, but going down the stairway, and then my brain goes, man, it would be a great picture if she was like. Of course, that's not going to stop, but my
Right,
brain
right.
thinks like that, right?
Of course, of course.
But I'm busy
You have to.
moving.
You
Camera's
have to.
sort of
That's your job.
strapped around. Yeah, this camera's in my around my shoulder, but it's away. And then there's the obvious ones like at checkpoints and stuff like that. Areas, so the areas where what we call the rules. But in the case of that, so because you're in the hot area, I'm more in these other areas that I come in after a liberation point. It's not like I'm running around with the boom going on. If you need a week off, call me. You can come up here and stay in the apartment. Um,
Oh, yes, that would be amazing. That would be
so,
amazing.
but I know that there's a point where like you're shooting your shots, and then there's times where that's not going to be really what you got to do. So, just curious how that looks for you where you're at.
Yeah, for sure. The extreme side of that would be Um, I had the amazing sort of privilege to be in an ambulance with an ambulance team out here. Um, some volunteers, foreign volunteers, and one of them's British, one of them's American, the other is German. And then I'm the Japanese, so it's a full-on World War II situation in the ambulance. Um, nothing crazy happened that day, but the agreement, and I had mentioned this proactively, but the agreement would be that if they need like a third set of hands, um, I'm that third set of hands, and photography does not take priority during that moment. And that's I think I try to roll in that way. Same goes with military. The military they love to take advantage of that. So they're like, "Hey, listen, this is a very crucial moment. We have to move these boxes." And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's half a joke. They know it's funny, and they know it kind of ruffles my feathers. But I'm more than more than willing to help.
And
I'll
without,
definitely take a
yeah,
I'll
without,
take a break from the camera though. Like when I'm going to the grocery store or
sure.
the getting coffee, I'm like, all right, this 10 minutes, like I'm not gonna have the camera on me. It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, some of the people who are listening, I don't know who caught it that day, but there were some people who heard me. I went out about 2 weeks ago without my camera one afternoon. And by the time I really sort of thought about it, I was a little over a block away and I felt naked. Like I didn't know how to function not having that camera on my hip
Yeah,
ready for whatever I
absolutely.
want.
Absolutely.
At least with the kit lens. I mean, I always carry three lenses, so um, but yeah, it was surreal not to have it. Even and I'll even say a funny thing. There's space that we haven't done yet from a event that happened the other night. My friend, I said, "Should I bring my camera?" No, just your passport. I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, I happened to go out the day anyway, taking photos and including a couple of important things that were happening in the mid afternoon. And I was like, well, sorry, I had my camera bag with me anyway. Well, it turns out it was a film screening, and the director was there, and people involved in the movie there, including soldiers who were featured in the movie, were there. So voila, I had photos of everyone that was involved, and yeah, I'm glad I had my camera. I always had it there with me. A couple of things back to what I want to know about a little bit with the upset considered. Upset considered. In the situation you're at there, how lax does it get once they're used to? In other words, do they if you think about the great pictures from like Don McCullen and some of the other war photographers who were like literally sitting there looking at the shell shocked soldier smoking a cigarette in the bunker, just destroyed from a hard day's work. How free are you now in 2022 or 2023 to just get those shots, or is that pretty much what's expected of you?
Ooh. um. Yeah. When I was with Karpatska Siege, we were actually doing very good in the sense of a battalion. And Izium had just fallen. Russians had retreated like dozens and dozens of kilometers, and so it was sort of like mostly a chasing game. There were casualties during that time, no doubt, but it was a chasing game. Um, the war situation now is more of a like sit there and get shelled game. That's the you see all these videos online of of these shells coming into like trench positions,
Yeah,
and they've got the selfie camera on, and it's such a common situation that so many soldiers are able to do that. Um, we were sort of doing that, just sitting there and kind of waiting the shell, hoping that the shell wouldn't sort of land on us. Um, During that time, everything went successfully. The 3 days that I was out, um, everyone went out, everyone came back. Uh, you can't. you can't plan these things, but if I could, that's the way it would be every time, right? Uh, right now, that's not the case at all in the area that Karpatska Siege is fighting. Um, um, that yeah, that's not at all the situation. So yeah, it's a difficult it's a difficult question to answer. Um,
I'm just saying, like there are times I've already seen this with some other friends who are doing, near the front or front line photography. Is that what they've said is that at first it was a little, well, what are you doing here? Like, okay, all right, we got things to do, and you're sort of possibly even in the way for what's going on. That's what one friend said. But once they get used to him there, and they were seeing some of the shots, um, here and there, they were like, "Hey," and it fired them up, and they were more, willing to be photographed in situations that
right,
were
right,
not
right,
not fun,
right.
because it was done with integrity, it was done with reverence. I'm back here, not at the front, and a lot of it has to do with that you're there. So, like I've said, there's no point. It's being covered. Yeah, I don't want to distract us, but who the fuck thought that there was no coverage of this war available? Because you and I go, what?
Yeah, I mean,
There's
we've
no
been
coverage
trying.
available? Like, really?
We've
What
been
the fuck's
trying.
this on my hard drives? Anyway, wow, I'm completely gaslit. But but there are
No,
times
but yeah, I
where
think
I get that interaction where it's, go ahead.
no. I'm just kind of replaying your question in my head. Like, man, it's no. That's a really good point because yeah, I just realized something really essential. I, I haven't taken like super shit moments in
Yeah,
soldiers. I haven't taken like just like these really horrid like shit moments. And that's fucking homework. Like that's homework. Yeah,
sure, man.
I have to do that. I have to do that. Because that's the reality. It's not the reality always.
Hmm.
Um, soldiers get time off. Sometimes the front moves, and then you get a break, and
Hmm.
during that break, it's like really fun. And then all of a sudden, there's war again. There's battles again. Um, and the term that the American soldiers like to use a lot is what is it? Hurry up and wait.
Yeah, hurry up and wait,
Yeah,
right?
hurry up and wait. Yeah, so that really is it. Um, yeah, and I have a lot of like smiling soldiers. I have serious
Sure,
soldiers,
sure.
but I have a lot of smiling soldiers too. Um, that's not the that's not the full picture. I don't
Patiently waiting
have.
with the cigarette burning.
Yeah, yeah, seriously.
Patiently waiting with a cigarette burning. That's what I see. So that's actually when I tend not to have the camera out. I'm able to do photographs of delivering the truck or whatever, but the commanders are like, no, but just let's have chai, which is like, yeah, man, like I'm just glad to sit and have chai. That's what happened when we went to Donetsk. I got to hear some very interesting things. And we did a video of arriving with it, handing off the vehicle, and you don't see who else is there because, yeah, you're not supposed to see anyone else that's there. Um, and that's my arrangement, and I'm okay with that. What I've learned here, just sharing something here, is that there was sort of a nod available with people of when to take a photo in what was clearly not a happy moment, clearly not an easy moment. In fact, in some cases, it was a terrible moment. And then there was a moment where you just sort of knew, where it was understood that that's what you're there to do. You're there to see it. And for me, the first time it was sort of voiced was in Moschun in the first week of April after the Russians had been driven back. And Andrea and I got out of the vehicle, and there's a video of this interview on NatSecMedia and some of the other websites I've got with it. The owners of this bakery combination building, it's like a bakery, a coffee shop, a bunch of different stuff in one building. We're just like, what are you doing here filming? And we're like, hey. Audrey says, "Hey, American journalist, he's trying to document the crimes against these people here, like you." And once they heard American, they kind of, calmed down and towards us, at least, and were very willing to have a talk. And it was a really good interview that actually ended with smiles and hugs. Like within 15 minutes, that energy had turned into something really positive. And largely because they understood why we were there. We're there as allies to tell the story. So, in your situation is different. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there are times where, just that little nuance of showing, like, hey, like I'm here to document something useful. I've had the door change. I've also had people yell at me during missile attacks when I'm right up on, like, no video, no photos. Like, this pad says otherwise. Sorry,
Yeah, no,
that's
for sure. Like
that's what this
during
pad
an
says.
attack, yeah, yeah. Um, there's a very sort of like easy. I wouldn't call it a tactic or a skill. It's more like a. It's just a moment, I guess. But when you see like a vehicle towing like a busted up tank,
Right,
um, or like an uh, MLRS system, like a rocket system, like just roll through town.
right,
It'll happen once in a while. It doesn't happen all the time. They don't just like park their like missile launchers like in town.
right.
When they're coming through, they're really just coming through. Um, the, but yeah, like when you see like a row of them, if you're just standing there snapping photos, it does look out of place, and it's like, all right, I get that they're press. I get that journalism is a thing, but seriously, like, can we not show them what we have um,
Yeah,
in this city? Like, if they think, wow, Kramatorsk has all of these like big things, like let's prioritize that. Um, but at the same time, OPSEC wise, you don't know where they're headed,
right,
and you're not going
right,
to know. Um, but I still don't post. I still don't post in a timely fashion. I post when it's completely irrelevant. Like no one cares that there was a rocket system rolling through Kramatorsk, 6 months ago, whatever it is.
right.
Uh, but yeah, like sometimes I'll point up the like heavy metal sign. And it's not a thing that I do to get the shot. It's just a feeling. It's like just a moment that you have. You're like, yeah, like fuck yeah. It's not a pro-war thing, but it's like you see these vehicles as tools that the Ukrainians are using to defend themselves. So you're like, hell yeah,
Yeah,
there's more of
yeah,
these. And so you put up your hand and like you really just kind of like wave at them as you're just snapping away. And that seems to work every single time. Because whenever I have those moments and I feel like I've never been pushed away or rejected ever in those moments. Soldiers get really excited, they light up, their faces light up, they put up signs, they put up their fists. Yeah, it's a cool kind of situation. Um, yeah, but you definitely get like a better instinct for the feel of the person that you're trying to take. If they're down for photos, essentially. Um,
yeah. And mine were in the cases of where an airstrike had just occurred that was in Lviv in two occasions, March 26th and then April 18th. The other cases I didn't quite. Oh no, there was one. There was a missile attack that hit near the train station further in May. Then in Kiev, there was at least a couple of times where I was there and some local person, not law enforcement, no photos, and I would tell them, like, yeah, and first thing I would do is always empathize, like, this is your country, so I respect, even if you're incorrect, I respect that this is your country, not mine, and that would sort of guide my behavior after that, patience that I might not have for people in America. In America, you touch the lens, you're going down. That's called assault, and I play hardball. Uh, Here, I don't have those rules. Anyway,
No,
so
yeah, I agree.
yeah,
You have to stay humble while you're here. Yeah, that's the one thing I've been able to do with Ukrainians. Like when they're
it's easy.
speaking,
Yeah, right.
or you know, their culture, whatever it is, like even if it's funky, I try to respect that.
Yeah. So in those cases, actually, the one that was kind of funny is Andre had to deal with this guy who was already had been hitting the bottle a little early because this was the April 18th attack on Lviv, and he comes up, no video, no photo, and I'm snapping away. He's not law enforcement. I have accreditation pass. I know the rules. I'm able to do this. I wait till the government officially announces what where, then they're capable to be released. I know how it's done. And a police officer even there is kind of like, yeah, we'll kind of get him done. In other words, just he didn't care, but he wasn't telling the guy to leave me alone. So
They
Andre's
probably
like,
like the coverage. They probably like the exposure. I think in that case.
yeah, and I sort of I got it, and I got the shot. And actually, it was also good. I will tell anyone who is ever interested in coming to do this, don't be afraid to go to the media center to their orientation, even if you've already been to one. I've gone to three, and there's always some little nuance that they'll bring up that I like. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good way of telling people who have come here. So one of the first ones I hadn't thought of was, and I was already abiding, but it just made it better. Is try to avoid big panorama shots that really show locations really, really, really well. If you're going to take a shot of something destroyed, try to get it fairly close up. Uh, and I went, all right, yeah, I can do that. And the reason why it was relevant is that in the case of the Lviv attack, it was a car detailed shop, so clearly a civilian infrastructure that was hit, except for it's like right above a train track, which would have been, what some people call a legitimate target. I don't like the term here, but so you get those little moments where like, can't do anything with it. And the second part is you'll go out like in here in Kiev, travel all over trying to figure out where this thing has occurred to find that you're confronting like a warehouse districty place that you're not going in, and like, okay, go get chai, you know. Wait for the reports of them telling you infrastructure has been hit, and that's about it. So, what's it like when you're not with the guys in the front of the teams? Have you been going to some of the strikes like that happened in Krematorsk?
I didn't catch the last part. What in Kramatorsk?
Okay, so for instance, I know you've seen my photos and my video. Like I've gone to like Dnipro and others where airstrikes have hit. Have you, aside from when you're embedded in these units, have you gone to some of the areas that have been
I
hit
see.
down there?
Yes, I was able to go to
Yeah.
Irpin, Irpin for the first time in when was that? That was January, late January or early February. That's what it was. Um, yeah, I was in Irpin, and oof, it's really it's like you see the aftermath, but it's really hard to imagine it happening in real time. Um, I think that's probably part of my. It's not a prejudice. What is it? It's like it's Western Ukraine as far as I'm concerned. Kiev and beyond. Dnipro maybe not, but like Kiev and beyond is like Western Ukraine. And I'm just reminded, of course, like Kiev, Bucha, Irpin, all of these places in that area, like the Kiev metropolitan area, like they saw war. They really saw war.
Yeah.
It's humbling. It's
So did you
just
go? So you went
regular.
to? Did you go to the big residential tower called Irpinsky Lipki, where it was kind of
Uh,
fairly
I,
torched?
I, yeah, I think I did. I think I
Yeah.
did.
Across from it is like more of just homes. So there's like homes to one side, and then there's this
Mhm.
really nice housing complex that It's like 10 stories tall, 9 stories tall, something. It was really nice, and they're
Mhm.
trying to rebuild it. I did put a photo in the nest. Actually, I wanted you to think of something, for this conversation while we say this on your phone. Um, Considering what I have here, this is a photo I took. It's up in the nest with yeah, Valentina in Irpine. She's in one of the units there on the 10th floor, and she said, "Come look what they did in my apartment." I went, "Okay." We
I
just followed
this. I
her through
remember
the
this.
building. Yeah, and we did an interview that it's published
She
that I have
she
a
literally just pulled you in.
yeah. She says, "Come look at
That's
what they
amazing.
did." She's living in it. She was
Yeah, yeah.
living in a
They do
car
that.
in the driveway with her son, just
Oh my,
living there.
wow.
Yeah,
With her
and
son.
yeah,
Jeez.
he looks after her, and he's somewhere in his 40s, I think.
He's
And
in his 40s.
so as we were doing the interview, I saw her in this sort of what looked like an alcove for what's left of the place, and I asked Alex, my translator driver friend, I said, "Hey, ask if she would mind if I just take a photo for the moment while we're here doing this." And she said, "Sure." And I just pulled her hair back nice, and no makeup or anything, and just went, "Okay." And that's the shot she gave me, and a couple of angles, and I just went, "This will be one of the best photos I ever take in my life." I mean, it's terrible as it is. It it's the dignity, like the way she just did it. I don't even know if the photo quite
Yeah,
conveys how she did it, because she just went,
yeah.
"Boom, you can't break me." And I went, "I like this lady." Actually, I have her phone number. I text here and there
Yeah.
to see if she's okay. So this is in
Oh,
those
amazing,
buildings right there
amazing.
near Peen. Yeah. I want you to think, if you've got some on your phone or something, if you've got one published, think of a photo that
Sure,
really, really
sure. I
this
think I
last
can
year
find
just,
one.
yeah, perfect, perfect. That really, really moved you this
Yeah,
last year, because there's the outside audience that sees your photos. I like your photos a lot. That's actually why I stayed in touch with you. Um,
thank you,
and
thank
and follow Saphryn, not just here, but on his Instagram. I follow his Instagram account, and you've got video coming. We'll go into that in a minute. But there are moments where I go through the photos that I think, well, other people said, and that renders some of my opinion. And then the part where I feel it, like I see some photos, and you know what, I don't care what anyone says. I love this photo. And it's not always an easy photo. Sometimes it's a not easy photo,
you.
but
Yeah,
it's because it captured something that no matter how many times I see it, I can't lose an ounce of the emotion of that moment. And some of them are like the funerals in Lviv. Some of them are the airstrikes here in Kiev, watching the chaos of the rescue units. I have CNN people in the foreground doing live feed, just stuff where I'm just trying to capture, really for myself in some way, exactly what happened with some frames, right? And later I look at a few of them, I go, "That's fucking crazy." Like I see a shot, go, "That happened." Like that thing that I'm
yeah.
seeing right
No,
there
seriously.
occurred.
Yeah,
It's in the shot,
yeah.
So yeah, if you've got one, just tell me when you got it and take your time. Um, I have a little folder called import favorites now, because I have seven
Important
thousand.
favorites. All right, all right.
I have 7,000 photos on my phone, and that's not even all the shots I took. I don't know, I've taken 25,000
That's
photos
called
just
of
since.
important favorites. Holy mama.
Oh man, it's just a speed dial for my photos of stuff that's moved. Another one was when we were in Bucha, the leader of the Crimean Tatar people for years, Mustafa Zhemilev, famous human rights activist. He was in Bucha, standing right across the street from us, having a small interview with a young woman's cell phone. And I said to Andrea, I said, "Hey, can we should go over and get this interview?" And so we did. But right before we did, I took a shot of her doing the interview with Zhemilev, and I think I have it in the shots. But um, just those moments when I see them, they'll outlive me. That person was here at that time doing that thing. And we saw it.
Yeah, when looking back at photos, when you're busy taking a lot, like sometimes you'll have seasons where you're just taking, shooting, um, and then you look back, like some moments you even like just forget, and you're like, oh my goodness, I totally forgot about this like day or this moment, because so many things are happening, and I guess your brain prioritizes like in some kind of weight metric. I don't know,
Right.
but you
For
forget.
intensity of
and,
moment, like
and
intensity of the thing. Yeah, exactly.
intensity, yeah, like how dangerous is this, or how important, yeah, and you look back and you're like, whoa, right, this, and like this flood of memories like comes back. It's cool. It's a privilege. It's like, yeah, it's very cool.
Did you find a photo?
Give me, yeah, I found a photo. Give me literally 10 more seconds to
Yeah,
post
no
it.
problem. Take your time. Take your time. Yeah, so that's actually one of the things I do is go through my Lightroom setting, my Lightroom library, and I have a physical notebook, and I literally write in what I did on certain days, and I even have another section in the notebook that's themes. So if I do a lot of food markets or I do airstrikes, then I have all the photos by themes because I have, I don't know, 100 something thousand photos to sift through. So it makes it faster if I need one for an assignment of any kind to find. And actually, I'm putting in the nest. Here's the Mustafa Zhemilev and Bucha in the nest. Um, so, yeah, that was April 7th, I think, and 7th or 8th, right after the victims of the Russian aggression were removed from the street, and Zhemilev came down there to survey personally, and I don't know who the young lady was. She went on about her business, did an interview, and I just happened to turn around Snap, and of all the photos I took this last year, it's still in the top 10 that I look at on a regular basis to think like I was standing there next to Zhemilev surveying, you know, 20th century bullshit into the 21st century. Let's just say it that way. It really is, right? I
This
mean,
is
you
in
see what's
Bucha.
happening here, is it not? I mean, we see this
Yeah.
stuff in person. Is this not what you read in high school about World War I and World War II?
Oh yeah, like the all the atrocities of war that our grandparents like had to go through. Yeah,
Fuck.
yeah.
I mean, I
Like
stood next
my
to the mass
God.
grave in Bucha. I went 21st century. Stood next to the mass grave in
No, I
Izum.
sometimes I still look at it and I'm like, wow, like this
Yeah,
is, yeah, this is like, I look at these soldiers and sometimes they're so tired,
yeah, yeah.
and the wrinkles and everything kind of show up on their face, and they look so worn, and they look a lot older, right, at that moment. And so you kind of envision them like in their old age, like grandparents, like telling the kids, how they fought in the war for Ukraine. And yeah, you see like the grandfather, like the grandpa in a lot of these soldiers. It's true. Hopefully, hopefully they're able to tell the story. Yeah, hopefully they'll live a long life after this war.
So I just see this post with the flag. Is that the one you want me to put up here?
Yeah. That's
Excellent,
sort of my.
excellent. Okay, it's up in the
You were
nest
talking
now.
about like hell yeah babushka moments.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There you go.
Yeah, this is my hell yeah babushka moment.
Tell us the story about this picture.
Oh man.
Summarize.
Um.
Summarize.
Yeah. So this. Um. We went to Sviatohirsk, and Sviatohirsk, or in Russian they call it Svetogorsk, I think. Svetogorsk, yeah. And most people who live there call it Svetogorsk. And she lived right next to this school that was funded by a Japanese organization. It was a music school for kids funded by a Japanese organization. And we went to visit the territorial defense forces in Svetogorsk, who ended up like literally holding the line of their city until the Russians took half of it. um, yeah, these guys, we went to visit them, and then they actually took us around almost as if they were fixers or like, tour guides. They kind of took us around a little bit, which was amazing. They took us to this school, this Japanese school, and I snapped a couple of photos of it. Uh, got a photo of the plaque, and I was like, yeah, these are great. Like, it's a little school in the middle of nowhere that is no longer active due to war. Um, I didn't know, as a Japanese person, like, I didn't know how special that was. It was a school funded by Japanese money. Um, then all of a sudden we hear that this school was bombed like 4 days later. That the school took a direct hit. Yeah, super shocking. So I was immediately scrambling around for like these photos of this, you know, mundane, normal looking school, which I had very little of. I had very little of it. Yeah, I was leaving the Donbass a couple of days after that bombing, that shelling. So as I left the Donbass, I went to this school to check it out, just to see what it was like after the shelling. We had just been there. This was the first time that a place was destroyed that I had been uh, to, directly. Um, yeah, so I took photos of the rubble. And this lady lives right next to the school. And her house, the inside of it is just uh, like a complete wreck. Just a trash dump of a place now. Um, she lived in the basement, so she was okay. I asked about her eye and her glasses, and her condition, and she says, "Yeah, yeah, I'm okay. I've got kids, I've got grandkids. It's okay." And I was like, "Okay," but I was going through the rubble of the school, and in that the rubble was so fresh that the Ukrainian flag was still sitting there in the rubble. So I took out that flag. Um, it, it was like it was it was like a dream moment. I didn't feel that was real. Like, I'm a Japanese photographer in Ukraine, and now I'm pulling out Ukrainian flags from like
Yeah.
newly shelled places. Like, what the fuck is this even? Um, and at the end of my time with that lady, with that woman, she pointed to the flag, and she said, and someone, our fixer was there translating, and he's now a really good friend of ours. But yeah, she pointed to the flag and she said, "I looked at that flag every day, son." and and so I was like, "Wow." So I had her hold the flag. I said, "Can you hold this flag?" And she said, "Absolutely." She said, "Yeah, of course, of course." Um, so she held it up. I don't know if she was injured before the shelling or after, but she had a really hard time with her right arm, and that's why the flag is lower on the right. But she would still shake her hand with her right arm. She
Yeah.
didn't seem like she was in any pain. That flag is now in Kharkiv, um,
Mm.
with the family who I was staying at. So when I returned from the Donbass for the first time and went back to Kharkiv, I returned with that as a gift. I mean, they had made it all possible.
Right.
So yeah, and it was only months in. It was like a month, maybe a
Right.
month and a week in Ukraine, and like, you know, I, that's a lot. Like, I don't feel like I deserve that. Like, I just passed a place that was shelled. Is all. Now I have this Ukrainian flag from shelling. It's like, no, 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 no. This is not for me. Not yet. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know that
Like,
feeling.
trophy collecting will come later.
Yeah, the only place I make an exception for that. My good army buddy, who I knew from before the invasion, brings me patches, and he brings me psyop flyers from Kherson from the Russians and stuff like that. But
Oh
I bring him,
wow.
yeah, I bring him World Series hats from Houston. So
Oh my god,
anyway,
that's amazing.
he's on
That's
here
amazing.
as he's on here on Twitter as Jarnhun. He's just one of my amazing brothers here.
He
To
probably
me,
brags about that hat.
oh, he does now. Actually, that hat was going to go to someone way high up, and I said, you know what, that's actually going on your head today.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
because he's my brother. So there was four that I brought to the
Right.
country, so he's one of the four. Uh, what is your role in history at this moment? And I don't want you to be afraid to say it.
Woo.
What is your responsibility? What is ours? Let's make it easier. I'll take it off your back a little bit. What is our responsibility to history as photographers in this moment?
I think our responsibility as photographers as photographers, right, is to remember stories that need to be told by taking photos of those stories so that you can tell them later. Um, I think if you're a photojournalist, um, and that's your like pure role as a photojournalist, then yeah, not publish everything, but publish as soon as you can. Make it time relevant. Um, there's always a temptation to publish as soon as you can, um,
Yeah,
but as a photographer, if you put out one photo, you don't want to put out that photo again somewhere, uh, especially on the same platform. Like it's kind of like, yeah, we get it. Um, so when you do put it out, like I really try to put a story behind it. Maybe I try too much to put a story behind it. Some people would be like, dude, just put it up. Like just upload it wherever it is. Just put it up. People need to see this. But journalists are doing that. Like they're photojournalists, other photographers. They're telling the story. Um,
yeah,
for me, I know I'll be taking all of these stories back to Japan one day. So the idea is it's not Japan focused at all, but the idea is that there is definitely going to be an audience that is waiting to hear like what in the hell is going on in Ukraine. Not that they're not that they don't know, but as I spend more time here and gain more sort of photographic weight here, that'll affect a lot of the funds that I can raise in Japan, to make a difference here in Ukraine.
right.
Um, by knowing a little bit more about like specific needs that different villages on front lines regularly have, uh, having a documentation of that is very important. Um, and I think in the future, like we'll keep publishing photos, but as we do, it's there's a bank of not just proof but memory, historical memory, I think, and that
Hmm.
historical memory will be a gift, for the people who want it. Um, that's the way I can contribute, I guess. But definitely, if there's a moment, even if it's not the right shot, like take the damn shot. Even if it's not even postable, it's completely amateur settings. Just take the shot, because if you do, you'll remember it, and then you'll be able to tell that story.
Yeah,
Um,
my shots in Medica when I arrived back in, um, and a reminder, I was here before the invasion for a month roughly. Came back in as it had been in, so about 2 weeks in, about March 15th. And I didn't really want to stick my camera in people's faces in any capacity, so I did the hip shot thing, and it's sort of chest level. You just keep popping shots, just hoping hoping it
yeah, yeah.
focuses. You know, and it's mainly so that I could capture some memories. And there were a few that were really almost like that fishbowl effect. I'm not using a fisheye lens or whatever, but it just had that quality of being at the weirdest angle, like that guy Bruce Gillen. I don't know if you know street photographer Bruce Gillen, who likes to really get you off
Bruce
your
Gill.
face. I think that's his name. The guy who he's a street photographer in New York that throws a flash in your face and looks for the shock of your face as he sort of bombards you with street photography. But it had a really odd angle to it. And when I look back at the composed shots later in the year, elsewhere, even intense moments, I just got to the point where, the example of the airstrikes in October, where, no faster had I just covered one when I'm right back in a cab going to another one. I was a lot calmer. I was able to just sort of like, I
Mm,
knew what I wanted to see. That was a waste of, things that were a waste of time, things that are important. And in the middle of it, one of my shots that I took that is personally important to me is my friend Yuri, who lives in the neighborhood, who, as soon as he saw me, he goes, "Hey, like it's you!" Like, and he looks at me like a big brother. We talk a lot about the country and stuff. And he was all chipper. And then he says, "Hey, take my picture." And he wanted all the smoke in the background of his neighborhood on fire, essentially from this attack. And his face just got stone cold serious. I mean, in a way
mm,
that I have three other shots of him at different times, and even a selfie from not 4 minutes before, all smiles. And as soon as I took that shot, it was like it was you bombed my neighborhood face. And
mm,
yeah, I mean, if I ever do something with these photos in that print capacity of telling the story, I actually wrote a whole narrative around his neighborhood because he's a friend of mine. He gave me some thoughts. May even go sit down with a video, with him and do that. But there's a lot of times in those moments where I try to see that person who is uh, demonstrating the impact, I guess, upon the local neighborhood and or the what was just hit. And in the case of Dnipro, it was the rescue workers. By the time we got there the next morning, they were
mhm,
worn out, but they're still doing it very focused, and just the looks on their faces and the moment they were trying to deal with finding survivors. Yeah, man. Like, so there's a lot of those bits. Tell, if you don't mind, are there photos that someone else took that when you look this last year here in Ukraine that you
mhm.
went like, damn, that's and then you grew, like you became a better photographer just by seeing that picture. You went, I think I just figured out.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Uh,
Marcus
so
Yam got me that way.
many.
He had a shot of a mom and daughter on the back of a train being like taken to Lviv, I think, or somehow maybe out of the country. And they just sitting there looking just exhausted. And the fact that he got the
Mhm,
shot
mhm.
was just like, I know it's not the hardest shot to get, but he thought to get it. And I went, that's it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Man, there are there are too many.
Yeah.
Too many. But
Hmm.
Lipkos is a Ukrainian photographer,
Hmm.
Libkos, uh, Konstantin Liberov, I believe. Yeah, that's his name. But Lipkos. Um, I think on Twitter he's Liberov. Yeah,
Hmm.
Liberov
Hmm.
on Twitter. Um, that guy is unbelievable. I met a tank operator while during my like last 3 days with the siege,
Yeah.
and yeah, I took a portrait of him and I sent him the portrait. He uploaded it immediately. Um, he was like really happy about. No, if you give soldiers like a portrait of them,
Oh, yeah.
like it might be on the internet before you give it to them. Like it's that
Right.
fast. It's like that's how you know they're not messing around when they're asking you for photos. They're like literally, I'm gonna post it the moment I get it. But yeah, so I took a photo of this guy, uh, gave him a bunch of photos. I was able to speak to him for a bit, and then 3 days later, I was gone. Um, it was about 2 months that I was with the siege, and
Yeah.
then this huge famous photographer who I've met twice now. once in Zaporizhia, and once while I was embedded with the military, he came to the same sort of position, forward operating base. And then he went on to document Izium. He had like this special pass, like
Hmm.
and military like escort. It was really cool. It was like very, you're seeing a professional at work using every tool he has, from his camera to his connections to his ability to
Yep.
speak
Yeah, his name is probably
Ukrainian,
Finn.
Russian.
His name is probably Finbar O'Reilly or someone like that. Finbar is a killer in the best possible way. He's my mentor in that capacity. he's he's
Hmm.
the real
Hmm.
deal. There's several.
Yeah,
Him and Lindsay and
I wouldn't
others.
call
And yeah.
him. I wouldn't call Liberov my mentor. So the relationship you have with your uh, the person you just mentioned is probably a lot closer than the
Oh,
relationship
no, no,
I
no,
have
not
with
that.
with
No, it's just mainly like I knew who he was, and then we had a talk, and he actually has a photojournalism course that I went, why not? It wasn't that expensive. We're on Domestica. And
uh,
there was one thing he said in everything he said in there that made me rethink of what I was doing here that I didn't know. And it was about documenting vulnerable people. It was the most important lesson that was in his entire thing. The rest of it I knew how to do. I knew how to go to a thing and basically tell a story using photos. I've been doing that most of my life. Um, I knew how to do everything from the mechanicals and captions. I understood that. But he had gone to
what
areas
did
like
he say
Rwanda.
about that?
He had gone to South Africa, Rwanda, and other areas where people who essentially are vulnerable, he photographs
Mhm,
them. And he said he used the example how in South Africa he had a grandmother photographing he was photographing her taking care of grandchildren because the parents died of AIDS and
mhm.
in the lost generation in between, essentially. And the
She,
young boy is in the like
her
a
parents died of age, so her parents died of AIDS, and so she was taking care of her grandmother. You said?
no, no, the grandmother's taking care of the kids because the parents in between have
Oh,
died.
okay. Oh, the kid.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. All right.
So the boy is in like a makeshift pool that's turned into a tub, naked in the
Hmm.
shot. And Finbar says, the younger me took that because it was in the moment. It's what happened. But later, I may have waited for a moment until something, where we cover the child so that's not just so exposed that way. It is a authentic photography moment, but he made a point. And then he used a different example, one that he actually got an award for, which is a mother with an infant baby's hand on her lips. All you see is the baby's hand, and it's in a country with mass starvation and the hand doesn't look like
Wow.
a baby's hand. It's wrinkled like an
Wow.
old person's hand.
Oh
And
my
you
goodness.
don't see the baby, you see the connection. And I that's all I needed to see to attenuate what my
My
lens
God.
did. And the very next day I went to a funeral and took a picture there where you see the widow in the background, but you see the cross with her husband's name in the foreground, crystal clear. So nice depth of field separation there to you feel that she's there. Well, the family got the photo through the people I know that work in Lviv for those, and they were really moved that the photo was taken that way. And Finbar hadn't said that. I don't know how I would have taken the shot. I would have done it with sensitivity. I have sensitivity. That part's easy for me. It's articulating the sensitivity into the shot. Um, if I hadn't done that, I would just said I would put it like this: Finbar is a really brave guy who goes to the front, right? That's not what you're doing there. That's not what you're doing over there. That's not what he's doing there. We could almost put a robot out there to do that. This is different. And how's it impacted you? How has this last year impacted you personally as far as are you getting edgy? Are you deeper connected with things you weren't thinking about before? Tell me some things that have happened for you, if you don't mind.
I remember my first trip out uh, to to Donbass, to Shkivka, parts of Kramatorsk, the Bakhmut. Um, it we got back to the hotel, and yeah, I realized I was super edgy. I was like really, really edgy because you're tense, and this is the first time in probably years that your adrenaline's been up like all day, the entire time, and you're not freaking out at all. So you're holding yourself well. You're in control, but you're just more edgy. You have more of a bite.
Yeah, I found that happened a few times when I was out doing stuff. How's your audio?
Oh, the audio's still on. I,
Good.
I, I always forget to turn off the mic. I apologize.
So, hey, I want to let the listeners, if you're interested, to come up ask questions, put in a speaker request. Thank you for listening so far.
Yeah, thank you for
But
listening.
that will open up the area for some questions or comments to either Saphryn or myself or whatever. And I have plenty more. We can chat photography too much. So yeah, the edginess, yeah, my tolerance for certain comments. I just don't hang around spaces. I don't get involved in some of the stuff I see online. I just basically focus on what's in front. I've found it easy if I just focus on my Ukrainian associates here. I'm good. Like I get actually sort of edgier when I communicate with the outside world a bit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm fine here. The support system is good. Do you find that there are times where how do I put this? Has there ever been a time when someone that's working around you suddenly has to assist you?
Somebody has to assist you in what way?
I don't know. I can't really. This is a hard one. I can't explain the situation, but I had to have a soldier hold a light.
Oh, okay. Like it's just regular assist, like any kind of like,
Yeah,
oh, could you help me with that?
I literally had to have a soldier hold an LED ring light. I can't explain. I cannot explain the circumstances. I can just tell you
Right,
that
but you were shooting. Okay, I see.
over
I see.
coffee, I will tell you in person, but that's all I can say.
I see. Um,
It is actually a public moment that I just can't tie together to me. But anyway, yeah, there's a ring light being held by a soldier.
I
Very
see.
good soldier, by the way. I have to compliment him.
I think I don't know. I don't. It's usually the other way around, where it's like,
Good,
you're the photographer. You don't really matter here. Can you hold this?
good.
So, like, yeah, it's usually the other way around. Especially like on the front, it's definitely the other way around. Um, but yeah, people understand what you're trying to do. If there's like another photo, what you call it, like enthusiast, you can say, if
Yeah,
someone likes photography and they
sure.
know that it's going to be a dark room, they'll sometimes even say, "Here, let me light it up for you."
There you go.
And then
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
yeah, and they'll put up their flashlights from their phones, and it's amazing when people do that. Like it's half of the work now for you. So yeah,
Yeah, I
you're
do
like,
mine
wow,
around
this is how
civilians.
professionals probably operate.
I did that with civilians where I was in basements in Kharkiv, where we had gone down, and there's actually video that we did with Chris Moore, and we didn't have enough light, so, so we actually flipped our cell phone. I had a spare cell phone. We kind of flipped it upside down in one corner, and we had to suddenly improvise some light into the space that wasn't there. Um, and everyone else who was sort of should be focused on picking up their lives went, sure, they actually wanted to get it better because we were taking the time to do it. Um,
Right.
we're going to go to Cindy here and say,
Yeah.
I have some more questions. But first, hi, Cindy.
Hi. Sorry that
Listen.
for earlier. But anyways, I had a question, and I'm sorry if this has already been answered. But I know that on occasion throughout the last year, and this does relate to photographs at least, I had some North Americans be like, "Hey, you guys don't need to be sharing these sorts of photos." And I'm like, well, we are asked by our Ukrainian loved ones and Ukrainian family members to amplify their voices. And I know that you and Sapphire, it's
Sapphire,
nice.
yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
It's a
I
pleasure.
know that you guys have had to shoot in some situations that have been very difficult, and we may not, or you may not have had the experience before in photographing and being asked to share. So I'm wondering
Mm.
if you guys have any sort of feelings on that topic, because I know that there's going to be things that you pull on your heartstrings in a situation, but as well, I'm curious about how you deal with that, because I know that as a photographer, not in a war zone, just as someone who was a photographer prior, I would struggle, I think, inside on that one, but do, what is asked of me, and share the story that I'm asked to present to the world instead of guard them. But how do you guys deal with that? And how did you guys deal with it at the start? Is there a difference, or is it the same way?
Cool.
Yeah, what do you think?
Um, I did this experiment with the soldiers. It was essentially an experiment. Uh, I wanted to see if it was even realistic or possible to like legitimately sort of perfectly respect everyone's wishes when it came to whether or not they wanted their face shown. If you're sort of like doing a drive by on a on an area, near the front, there's going to be soldiers outside. Some of them are geared up. Some of them are in their slippers because that's sort of that's where they live. Um, rumbles again, huh? Um, and so when you're doing drive-bys, like you don't know if that soldier is okay with photos or not, unless they're like waving at you or whatever. But since I was embedded in this case, I wanted to see if it was even possible. And I could say that, if you're looking at a group of, a couple hundred or a few hundred, um, yeah, it's possible. It's possible. It's a boatload of work, but it's possible. That's the privacy sort of as the personal privacy sort of aspect. When it comes to the inside of a house or the outside of a building, that's definitely identifiable. That's definitely identifiable. And after a while, I think like I've gotten a lot better at like timing. I know that okay, if it's a rocket that hits a certain city, taking photos of that rocket and then publishing it immediately is probably not a great idea. They can just reload that rocket and go go go. Um, with shelling, uh, with really high caliber shelling from like far away. Sometimes it's tanks, sometimes like 203 millimeter like tank rounds, like just it's crazy. Um, they will move quite quickly. The further they are, the slower they move. If they're close at all, within hours they're gone. Within minutes usually, but those positions are usually just cycled through. And so publishing a photo 3 days from that incident or whatever, that would show any kind of clue as to how they did, or any kind of clue as to what the current positions were when you took that photo. It doesn't really matter at that point because they're gone. They can't really use that information. They're not there anymore. So you learn little details like that for sure, and that's just the knowledge uh, thing. Like people will tell you certain things, and you just put it together. But I did run into a situation very recently where I visited some Azov soldiers, and they were part of the third brigade. They're fighting in Bakhmut, and I took a photo of them outside of a um, outside of a place, and because of that, I find myself not publishing the photos. It was a group photo that I took. Like I simply can't publish them, and they're really great great photos that I'm just kicking myself because I left clues in the photo. Um, I guess the point I'm trying to get to is as you're taking the shot, you're sometimes you don't really know, um, but you just have to have the kind of discipline to when you're editing, really sift through like what it is that you're looking at, and if anything can give anything else away. Because it's not like they have a whole army out there looking for clues online, but the people who do look for them, they are very, very skilled. So they'll probably find it if they wanted to. Um, and if you're publicly embedded with a group of people, you're publicly embedded. Uh, then you really want to delay delay what you publish. That's for sure. When it comes to volunteer organizations, for example, if a volunteer organization gave you like a thing to you like extra tires or something like that, extra wheels, then and they gave it to you to donate to whoever needed it. Um, and if you have photos, or if you publish photos of you donating that to military, like giving an assault brigade like spare tires or something, um, that might like mess up their whole operation. Maybe they're operating um, because of this relationship that they're building. Maybe they're doing this mission to build the relationship, and the relationship isn't official yet, so nothing public can come out. All of these little things like that you don't even think about, and I didn't think about that in the beginning. Like these minute details. Um, um, for me, the way I sort of digest that responsibility is I kind of feel into the situation. It's a lot of it's feeling, you know, but you really have to use your head. There's an interview that I have where the commander is sitting in front of a very specific kind of wallpaper. Like it's a kind of design I've never seen in Donbass, um, but it's like a specific kind of wallpaper, and it's uneven to very particularly uneven. So whoever lived there, if they saw that, they would immediately know what house that is. Um, and when that kind of unit is operating on the front lines, there's a higher chance that the people around them are pro-Russian. So those people who fled their homes, some fled to Ukraine, some fled to Russia. I really don't know what the ratio is, but the ones that fled to Russia, you don't know how Ukrainian, pro-Ukrainian or pro-Russian, the owner of the home that you're occupying was or is. You have no idea. So I have no clue. So I have photos of the insides, of course, of the place that we stayed in. I did not publish those. A photographer later on contacted the Siege, uh, went and embedded with Siege for a few days or a couple weeks or something like that, and he published photos of the insides. And like I messaged him, I was like, "Hey, listen, um, like like, I've been inside of that room, and that's why I know exactly I know the geolocation of that room." Um, from a photo, just a random photo of a soldier. Like I know exactly where that is. People looking for you, for us, for soldiers are looking hard. um, they'll find out. That's my feeling.
Well, you're actually spot on with something that I have skill set in there, and I know some super ninjas in that court who are able to do amazing items. Some of them are in these peers that we have in spaces, by the way, who can look at photos and really determine things most people would miss. I'll add something and then we'll go to Cindy real quick. In the case of I'll use the October 10th airstrike at Shevchenko Park in Kiev as the example. There was a victim's body who was still in the intersection. Hard to tell at the moment. I arrived, living unconscious. I would assume dead because of the way no one was responding in that moment.
Yeah.
And the victim was there for a while, and is in a whole bunch of my photos from just trying to canvas different positions to figure out what the story was. And as you know, when you have something that active, you're following in the moment, which is what they think of as fog of war. You really may not even know. Oh, by the way, there's a bigger airstrike 4 blocks away. You
Right.
don't
Right.
know
Right.
in a day like this, because in those days, in that particular day, we had 4 locations get hit that were all significant. This was the most. Um, I felt
Goodness.
later, as I harvested through the photos and the video, I had more than enough to tell you the story. I could tell you 5 people were killed, and I don't have to show you any of the carnage in order to
Hmm.
make the point. It's in my files. You and I had this discussion privately. There's a lot of
Hmm.
stuff in my files. I made the decision 2 days ago to finally publish the photos by hitting the sensitive tag of the charred Russian bodies. So, guys and ladies, you can go back, and if you want to, like, have you really said, oh yeah, I finally published them there, but I put a sensitive marker on it. I did it because it was anniversary day of invasion, and it's my way of saying, fuck you, Russia, I've seen your corpses. So
Right. Right. Right.
I waited all that time to finally edge that line that I told you is really important to me. So anyway, let's go to Cindy, because that was sort of
It's a
my
sin.
answer to her comment as well. Hi, Cindy.
Hi. So, just another question that came to mind when you were speaking about the wallpaper and the small things that people don't realize are OPSEC considerations, or at least should be. And one thing that I've noticed really early on, and I don't know why this stood out so much to me, is reflections in windows and puddles and things that people are not posting. So I'm just curious, like how many, because as Chris was just saying, you're in the moment, you're trying to take the pictures of what you can. You also don't know when the next strike is coming. If you go into that area, you don't always know if you're just getting there what exactly the target was, because things change from day to day. And I'm just curious how many of your guys' photos, and obviously you're not going to have an exact number, but have you had to refrain from posting because something ended up in a reflection? Or how closely are you looking at the reflections? Those sorts of things.
Yeah. As far as reflections are concerned, there's a what's call it an entire album, you can say, of photos. There's a series of photos that I have with a group called Partnership and Development. Like that is the name. That is the actual name. Uh, a rebranding might be good to do, but it sounds cool in Ukrainian or and Russian apparently. But yeah, so Partnership and Development. They went to Sloviansk. They evacuated with 4 vans. They evacuated probably over 100 people, 100 and something people that day, I believe. Um, and every shot that I have, even when I zoom in on it, has the reflection like very clearly of the building in front of which that car is parked. I can't use any of it. I can publish it now. I think it's the center of town where everyone gathers to evacuate, and there's plenty of photos of it online by other photographers, I think. So publishing it now, it really doesn't. It's not a problem. But that's the only example that I can think of as far as like reflections are concerned. And when you talk about OPSEC, do you like what's the paradigm through which you're asking that question? Is it sort of like a volunteer situation? Is it a like a military situation?
I was just asking in the military sense because I do recognize that there's a lot of photos and a lot of establishments will um, or a lot of places where people are. I've noticed just from peers. I'm a volunteer, by the way. I volunteered in Ukraine this or last summer, but now I'm a remote volunteer, so I kind of get
Brilliant,
of the
brilliant.
behind the. Thank you. And I get a little bit of, the stories that are behind the scenes as well that aren't shared publicly, but things like if you take a photo and you just said, for example, and I'm assuming that because I know Chris, I'm assuming that you're as cautious as he is about posting things like, and you said 3 days, if you could post it 3 days afterwards, if you're in a house, and you're clearly very cautious, even with the wallpaper, which is frigging amazing. And I love that. But I know that there's been occasions where someone has posted in a house days before, and then this was actually a place where they had returned. And there's things like that that have been in consideration. So when I'm talking about OPSEC, I guess it's just like military wise that I'm discussing, because sometimes in photos you'll see that there may be people in the background, or you may see what looks like grounds that someone may do something, or a warehouse that could be in, just have any sort of operational security, I guess, more so in a military sense than a volunteer sense.
Yeah, I think OPSEC is. I recently saw this video by, I believe it was France 24. I think it was well. It was a super amazing story. Bakhmut was involved. It was about the sort of heating up of Bakhmut. This is just before like Russians were entering Ukrainian trenches and taking out Ukrainian trenches just outside of Bakhmut, and it showed the like a full video of the outside of the hospital, the clinic. Um, for example, that does not clear OPSEC unless it was shortly shelled after, and unless they had information about like the shelling and that place was already destroyed or had just been destroyed and then released the video, then I understand. Um, but anyone who's been there can immediately recognize the building. Um, yeah, there are some shocking things that that media companies do. I'm not saying that there's blood on their hands. Like that's not what I'm saying. But I think that's disrespectful, to say the least. Yeah, and that kind of respect you really want to have. Uh, the flip side of that would be that sometimes you'll roll with organizations that you'll you probably won't see again. It was just like a sort of transit moment. Um, you'll find yourself while you're editing photos, you're like, yeah, they won't mind this up there. Your filters are loose during those times. So every sort of subject, if you're posting them, you really want to think of them as your best friend, and was your best friend sort of appreciate this? I think that's like the a good filter to use.
And you and I have very different burdens. So because I'm not there with a soldier who's, PERSEC is, as we call it, personal security has to be considered. I'm dealing more with the civilians and positive and negatives in their lives. I still have times where I may take a photo, but I'm doing it because I know I need to have it long term. It needs to be in the context of what the story is, and I'm like, it's not really a flattering photo. It's a real photo. It's a true photo in that capacity. And I have a whole archive of shots that, if they ever got published, they would have to be published in context of other photos so that they blend into a larger story instead of sort of highlighting a person in an obviously difficult moment. So
Right. Right.
yeah. Let's random. Thanks for joining. We'll go through a few more questions.
Hey guys, I just want to get a bit nerdy, I guess, when it comes to photography. So I really wanted to ask both of you, what's like in context of best friends? What's your go-to with your equipment? Are we talking mirrorless Sony's, DSLRs with a telephoto? What is 50 mils? Like what? Like especially because it's more candid style when you're in like Dom Bass, I suppose, as opposed because we talk about pose shots and stuff like that, or getting the right shots in that regard. But when it comes to like getting like those action shots or those moments, like what equipment are we using here? Are we talking like any, like even just an iPhone camera, I guess, in a lot of cases? But what are you guys usually going to these days?
Well, you said you were using the Sony. So if you want to remind, because I don't know if who didn't hear the beginning of the show, you want to remind the kit that you're using? Your system,
Sure.
by the way, for all those little whiny, like sophisticated photographer friends, I know it's called your system. So
System,
don't go
really?
there with us.
Wow, system. Well, yeah, I guess you call it that, but wow, that's
Yeah.
that's a lot.
And
System.
so I don't know if that's what it is.
Uh,
I don't
But
worry
yeah,
about terms. I just do what I have to do.
yeah, I call it kit. I call it kit.
Yeah.
But system is cool.
So what you got?
It,
What you using?
yeah, you were spot on. Sony mirrorless A7 III. I don't recommend it. It's not the best camera. The A7 IV really got it right, but the three, it's noisy. The colors are Sony colors, which isn't, you know what I'm saying? They're Sony
Yeah.
colors. Like
This
every Sony
Canon
user
colors and
will
Sony colors, right?
kind of have to admit to, like, we know our colors suck off the bat, so there's a lot of editing to correct the colors. But 16 to 35 millimeter, it's a wide angle. If I was ever in I thought to myself, what situation is the most common? Um, I wasn't going to be outside in the mountains, or not that there's mountains in the Dobas, in the fields constantly. I knew that realistically, you're going to be inside of buildings a lot of the time. And so 16 to 35, that's a wide angle lens. That's very flexible. It's really nice. You can punch in and post if you needed. It's really nice. I also have a 50 millimeter, a 51.2. It gives you a lot of blurred background. And a lot of the photographers I know out here are photojournalists. And all of the photojournalists, they use 24 to 70. It's right. Well, everyone uses 24 to 70. I don't, specifically because I don't have the money for it currently. So that will have to wait. But the 51.2 really allows you to take like a photo for the person that you're taking the photo of. It's a portrait for them. A lot of times, you'll connect online with the person that you're covering, or the person that you're shooting, um, and to be able to give them a portrait or a photo that they will most likely use as their profile photo. They will most likely send to all of their friends and family. um, that's something you want to give to them. When you're blurring out the background, making the photo like nice and creamy and everything, um, because of the lens. uh, it's not really considered journalism. So a lot of photojournalists kind of shun away from that kind of photography, like stylistic photography. um, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I don't know if the world will know less about what's going on because I shot at 1.2. So I
Well,
try
I mean,
not to think about it.
you're going. Sorry, uh, you're going through all these buildings, and you have to get the lighting and all that. So I'm assuming a wide angle gives you a better aperture for that, along with the 50 mil for like when you're trying to get that right shot.
Yeah, for sure. So sometimes I'll use a really like wide open aperture, like 1.2, just because it's dark. um, that really comes in handy. You're like, wow, this lens like really sucks in all the light. Um, yeah, and the wide angle is really good for, it's good for trenches. It's good for like really like corners of bars, where you have a group of people, kind of huddled up. talking. It's great for like meetings and stuff. And the best thing is if you're taking a really large group photo, wherever it is that you're standing, you will most likely be able to include everybody in the shot. You'll most likely have enough space, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Yeah. What do you use, Chris? Are you a Canon guy?
No, I'm using Lumix. I'm using the Micro Four
Oh
Thirds
wow.
system explicitly here because I get that 2-to-1 ratio for depth or for distance, and it actually throws me off for my wide angle thinking because I came from Nikon system and using
I'm
I
sorry
have
to
a
hear.
I have a 10 mil, so it's like I don't have a 10 mil here of anything like that. I have to do the whole stitching together panorama if I ever need. I mostly don't need that. I'm not doing landscape photography here until I suddenly am,
Yeah,
which
yeah. Until
has
you suddenly
happened.
are. That's
Until
always
I
how it
suddenly
happens.
am. Yeah, yeah. I'll be like,
Yeah.
so we're driving down to Kyrgyzstan. We're in between completely destroyed buildings, and we get to this one area where the earth looks like it's just rippling. It's just so beautiful. It's a perfect area of not quite valleys, but rolling smaller hills and perfect. And there's just one lone tree. And every photographer is like, no, like the goddess literally made this right here, right now for me to take this fucking picture. Yeah, I had to do a stitch. I mean, I basically turn my camera sideways and, and then I'll go back in Photoshop and stitch it all back together. So I know how to do that. It's
I
basically,
see.
I don't know if you've ever used a tilt lens. I have one of those back in the States too. Um, it's good for that. So I'm used to doing it.
Huh. Tilt lens.
Here, it's especially, there's been so many times where I need to really reach close to someone without being right on them. And
Hmm.
so the Micro Four Thirds works for me because for those who don't know, like a 35 mil on a Micro Four Thirds is the equivalent of a 70 mil. A 300 mil is the equivalent of a 600 mil, and I
Yeah,
had
you get
used
like
that.
a 1.5 time zoom, essentially,
Yeah,
right? Like
so I actually
1.5.
have footage in that I pan. I did a slow pan over the left bank of Kherson a few weeks back when we were there. Put it on a tripod and just sort of panned it across. Like I'm literally just sort of taking a panning shot of occupied territory with the zoom lens, and hopefully there's no snipers there. Um, but the main thing is, like, for instance, when we were in certain airstrike situations, I had to be able to sort of reach over the emergency crews to just see what's happening. What can I see from my lens? This happened in Dnipro. I don't know if you've been in this situation like I have, where I'm sitting there with a zoom, and I'm just scanning, like I'm looking to see where's the photo action essentially, where's the thing that happens that's like that. And for like in Dnipro, it was two firefighters, then three on top of the rubble with smoke and light behind them, sort of illuminating. It's just one of those things that it's the photo. But I'm having to scan back and forth just so that I don't miss things that are happening, including the crane operator who's working with them. Like he's sitting there in sweat.
That's
I
that's
especially start looking for those things. Once
that's
I'm in the
amazing.
moment,
I'm I'm
yeah, yeah.
I'm picturing looking through that lens and you like zooming into like the crane guy and then zooming back out to like a burning building or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's what I'm like imagining. That's
And
insane.
there's times where I have two cameras. I mean, like I'm all about efficiency. So one, so it's camera with the little my zoom in my pocket, my side pouch. But I've
That's it.
had times where I did two cameras, where I essentially knew ahead of time I
Yeah,
don't want to be
I
switching
rolled
around.
with two cameras at the beginning too. That's
Yeah.
how I did it. After a while, it's like it's so tiring just to have two cameras. It's two
Hmm.
things you have to break. And so I roll with one, but my sort of second camera is a micro four thirds, and it's an APS-C camera, and it has a
Hmm.
zoom lens on it. And yeah, I
Right.
definitely found myself using it as like a monocular,
Right.
just to check that Russian tanks weren't like rolling through, or like
Yeah.
yeah, for safety more than anything. It takes horrible
It's
photos.
also it's also
So I
a
don't
nice
really use it.
It's also nice to have that second camera if you have like super shaky hands and you don't want to change the lenses every like 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The lens changing is a nightmare every time. Yeah, yeah,
So
very true.
because it's not in the topic heading in my head, I have to tell you the most embarrassing moment that ever happened, and because it's a lens cap story. Ready?
All right.
I'm in Lviv in a funeral. I'm in the most somber moment of the funeral when the metallic lens cap on my TT Artisan lens rolls, instead of getting in my pocket, just misses the pocket as I'm tucking it out of sight. And it's like a huge coin hitting a marble floor. I just like died. I put my foot down on it as fast as possible. Just kind of like, dear Lord, please forgive me. I'm in a Catholic church. I should be fine. You know, I'm about to kick into Latin just to save my ass because it's just so terrible to have that happen. And I made, you know what? You know what never happened again? That never happened again. It's one of those things that happens once and it never will happen again. Because it was that much of a, oh my
Yeah,
God, was I just that guy? Yeah, I was just that guy.
yeah. There's definitely embarrassing moments while you're trying to take photos. Embarrassing moments in the photo. There's all kinds of humbling out here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well,
Everybody has an embarrassing moment, Chris. It happens.
yeah. The fun moments I have is taking photos of other photographers. And the first time that happened that was really, really, really fun was when we were 70 meters from the front in Avdiivka in February 9th last year. And I turned around and the military guy is taking a picture of me. So I turned around, popped it off, and took a picture of him. And I was like, yeah, well, we can all play this game. And he actually thought that was funny. Um, I have actually gotten to know a lot of journalists by taking photos of them doing their thing. I had it happen just yesterday. I think it's one of my. I don't know if it's one of my last tweets or not, but I was actually going up to St. Michael's to do segments that I did wind up doing today, and we have our wonderful friend that was here today. Katerina was helping us do the interviews, and you guys are really going to enjoy these segments. They may be difficult, but they were well done, and kudos to her. Um, so there are times where we're out doing these shots and you just have to kind of, be in the moment, get the thing done and be a pro, right? And as far as like embarrassment, there's moments where everyone starts laughing at a moment that you wouldn't expect. Or a kid does something, and I had one was at a funeral where we were, literally, I think I was in tears too, and the little girl started playing with the flowers that were there because they were pretty, and she was about 3, and then she started making a bunch of funny sounds, and I turned around and took a shot of her like literally holding up a flower with a big smile, and you see the adults had no choice but to laugh at that moment, even though if you backed up my frames in reverse, everyone was in tears all morning and into the afternoon, right? And there was just this one little moment where the child, holding up the flower and the shot, like, "Hi, I have a big yellow flower." And she said that to her mom, like, "Hey, mom, look, I just found a big yellow flower." And she has no context in her heart that like her father's gone, you know, that everyone's gathered to bury her father. And I kind of popped the camera down and took that shot in there. And again, I know the family, so I was able to get that picture back to them, and they were very thankful for that photo. That was actually the only photo they really appreciated mostly out of it because it was a refreshing photo that went on there. I've I know we've got a couple questions here, so I want to go to them, and we'll come back to a couple more items. Go ahead. Cindy and Skykiss, are you guys working out? Whichever.
My question can wait if Sky Kiss wants to go first. And mine's a pretty simple question, and we've kind of moved on, so I can come back to it if yours is important. Sky
Yeah,
Kiss?
we can come back to it as well. Sure, perfect. Thank you.
Well,
Sky Kiss.
mine is a short question too. Well, I don't know. in my estimation, lighting is very important in photography. I mean, that's what it is. It's capturing light.
Capturing
So
light, right? Writing with light.
would you guys please address how you handle lighting? And of course, I am also, I'm not just referring to what you might carry around, but also you might want to elaborate after Cindy's question. You may need to go back to this about available light, because you can't carry around huge light and get everything perfect. But I know that that's part of being a photographer, is to use the available light. So thank you very much for addressing this, guys. Thanks.
Saphryn, I'll preface with one that just popped in my head, and I want to hear, and I'm gonna reframe her question, including it to you in a very different situation. When the blackouts started coming on a too regular basis here, I actually made an admission a few times at night to go out and see what I could see, and I had to put in I have a 17 mil that's 1.2, I think, and I have a 35 and a 50 that are also roughly about 1.2. So again, lots of light can come in, and I'm walking around like, okay, what do I see? And I wound up at the shawarma stand with its lights going on. It's the only thing that's got light at night. And the Turkish shawarma maker that there, Sultan, a good friend of mine now, he's just taking care of things. And what I found was in the reflections, I saw the worn out faces of people who'd been working all day with his face, like very clear in the picture. You see them reflecting, and it was a practice I made myself go do. But again, that's in a non like boom boom situation. So let's make it more difficult. Let's talk about what happens when you're in a situation like that and you have low light and you see something. How are you taking care of that? You mentioned that the soldiers occasionally will provide a little bit, but walk us through that.
Yeah, there have been plenty of low light situations where you really do want to capture the shot. It's like I just wish I could. I just wish I could. Sometimes I'll literally just record because like I don't know how else to put it, because you think something's going to explode pretty soon. We were in Bakhmut in December. This is not even this year, but in December. And when we were there, the place was getting shelled. There was a lot of incoming. A few buildings over, place was getting smashed, and so we had to get out of there. A lot of that was at night. Yeah, and so I kept my camera rolling just in case this is an important, really, really important moment. Nothing came of it. Really bad lighting, really like dizzy to watch. But you can hear the audio in the background. That's something I had. The iPhone has surprisingly a good performance in low light. It's not like completely there yet to replace big digital cameras, and I don't think it ever will. The iPhone cameras, and Android too, like all these cameras that are coming out on phones, they take really, really decent photos, especially the new ones. Yeah, so I try not to underestimate the power of my phone. There's like cinematic mode, there's portrait mode, and those are like really, really stylized and like kind of computer generated. But especially if the person that you're taking photos of wants the photos, yeah, those kinds of modes really, really it stylizes the footage, the photo, and they really appreciate it. So yeah, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. I guess your goal. But yeah, I use all kinds of settings to compensate for light. Yeah. Actually, if I could just connect that to a really short story. We were in Zaporizhia, and one of the 3 photos I have of Lipkos who I think is an absolute legend. Uh, I made there was no light. It was pitch black. There was like a street lamp somewhere far away. And I told them this is a group of photographers essentially, and they were all telling me like, hey, bro, you don't have light. We can't take a group shot. But I had this fancy handle on my camera that allows you to hook it onto fences. And so I hooked the camera onto the fence, aimed it at us, and it took a brilliant group photo in very little light. And so, yeah, sometimes your gear saves you, I think.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I actually, speaking of gear, you mentioned you had a lens that you needed. I'm gonna put you on the spot here because you're too damn humble, and on your behalf, I can't be humble because I think you're pretty damn badass, and you've demonstrated a straightforward behavior, getting the shit done without a lot of pomp and circumstance about yourself. Your nose to the grindstone, and I like that about you. So people here would like to know things that you need. Cindy, right?
Yeah, so I actually messaged NatSec during this and was like, "Is this your friend that you had told me about, who's an amazing photographer?" Because we nerd out sometimes, and he was like, "Yeah, this is the one." And I had my hand up because my brain goes to fundraising all the time, obviously, because this is what I volunteer with. So I heard you say, "Oh, I can't afford it right now, but that'll be the next one after I'm done." And I mean, you do amazing work. And the Ukrainian people have said, like, share our story, amplify our voices, show the world what is going on. So my brain immediately just picked up on that. And I was just blown away just from what I heard from NatSec, and as well your information, your knowledge, and your professionalism here. And I guess I just wanted to ask, on behalf of myself and everyone, what can we do to help you?
There you
Wow. Oh, wow. Um, yeah, it is, to be completely honest, it is very financially straining to do what I do. I run off of personal support, friends, family, things like that. I'm not. I'm really. I really don't have a good fundraising sort of mentality. Which is which is really
which
something I
makes you
have to
my
work
brother
on.
from another mother. Yeah, I mean,
No, yeah, yeah, it's like funny.
we take the shot, and then we figure out how we're supposed to pay this stuff that has to still get paid while we're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm trying to start this thing called Magic Tumblr, and
Ah,
I
okay.
don't want to, like, it's not I don't want to advertise it, but the whole idea is to, like, once the war ends, like, all right, let's pack up and leave. The war's done. Maybe celebrations, etc. It, I want to leave something in Ukraine. Um, I don't know if I'll live here or not. A lot of people ask me that. I don't know, but I definitely want to leave something here, and that's the project. And I thought, well, why not start before there's a sort of stable society in which you can build a business? Well, why not start before that? Why not start with this war? Um, and so the idea is to document as humanitarian corridors, to document as many aspects of this war as possible, to make that a base from which Ukrainian operations can run, Ukrainian organizations can run. And creating that foundation, creating that collaboration between all of the the parties that would need to be involved for this to become real. That's sort of the mission for Magic Tumblr. Um, you put a whole bunch of things in a big mixer, and you mix it up, and out comes this pure gold, and that's sort of what I want to do out here. As I'm doing that, I'm following organizations, battalions that I would really like to have closer connections with. I would really like to work with them. And in order to work with them, sometimes there's a lot of things that you need. You need a vehicle, you need running costs, you need all kinds of stuff. Um, yeah, so when I came out here, I realized, wow, this is a bigger game than I thought it was. And so I've worked my way around, um, and I've developed sort of a few tricks to be able to really sustain myself out here. But it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. Um, the way I can be supported now is financially. One of the reasons I haven't yet been able to put together sort of like a dedicated intake site, with like all of the payment informations. There's some like updates that I have to do to payment uh, platforms that I use. I haven't really taken a look at that much, and that's a psychological thing. To be completely honest, Uh, I have to contend with the very likely fact that $1,000 to me, as opposed to like $1,000 to say, like a family who is now completely in debt to feed their kids, something like that. Like I have to contend with that, and it's like, okay, who, at that point, who really deserves the $1,000?
Friend, drop the link. Let us know. Drop the link.
That's where, see, this is where
You
the
know what I'm
hot
saying
seat
though?
part comes. Yeah, this is
I
the
think
hot seat.
it's like a psychological thing. And if I were, and I'm being like open but completely honest, complexes here. If I'm, let's say, at, there are a few photographers I really look up to, Alex Chan being one of them. Uh, um, he's a great photojournalist, and then of course Libkos, a great photographer and photojournalist. He, like, if I was at their caliber, my goodness, I could promise you even that the money would go further. It would mean more from all of the stories that can be told in order to raise more money. That's not a level of confidence that I yet have, if that makes sense. And that's why I've really been putting off fundraising for now. That's a complex that I'm working on. I really have to look at that from a very deep, like impersonal level. Like, why is that the case, etc.
So here's what
Yeah,
you're
it's
gonna do.
something I'm
You're gonna
working
get
on.
a pay. You're gonna get a payment link to her, and against your will, we're gonna work hard to make sure you got enough flow to not be thinking about those things. The reason why I
Like,
say it's like when I
that's
went back
amazing.
in August to get some supplies, I wanted to come back with a drone. I had to part ways with the drone I used at the beginning, so I needed another drone, and I set it at like 1,600 because, as you know, you got to get other stuff that goes with your drone. Wound up not raising that amount, but I got to chip in or chunk, take a big chunk out of 909 for the DJI Mini 3, and it's already paid itself off in the sense of the quality of what it gave us when we went to Zoom, Kherson, etc. So just even in those, just seeing 4 minutes of the destroyed village where we've got it permanently logged, of what happened is worth the amount. And um, thankfully, there were donors who got like over half of that knocked out. Good. Same thing. So when you say you need a lens or
It's
there's something
unbelievable.
that you need, this audience here, I know that they care about doing that. So try to get that link over to Cindy. This is one of the difficulties, and I'm actually, you and I are very similar, because I'll go out and do a bunch of work in a week, and there's some people that can come in the space that physically see me here in Kiev or elsewhere, really running around with a camera on me, and I've got a tripod bag on my shoulder, and I've got a gimbal bag on my back, and I'm swapping lenses, and I'm doing a bunch of stuff, three camera shot all by myself. And then I got to go home and edit all that stuff. And I'm barely asking anyone to pay anything but the gas tabs when we go deliver goods. So when we go drive a truck to the forces, it's like if we don't pay the gas tab, that's good,
No,
you know.
100%. Gas is the biggest cost out here. Yeah,
Right. So
a lot of
you
people.
know,
Okay.
like, yeah, you travel the country and you're like $180 out just for the fuel rate to get from Lviv out to Izum, you know.
So you humble photographers have yet to drop the link. So what I'm going to do, because I know NatSec's a little stubborn about dropping his link, he will be like, if you
Oh, it's in
guys
the
really,
profile.
really,
Venmo's
okay.
in profile, yeah.
Oh yeah, yours is. But you you are humble as well about asking for money. So I want to share something with you. I'm totally like taking over your space for 2 minutes, and I'm
Okay.
sorry, Aaron. But
Okay.
as someone who is a remote volunteer and fundraises, we can't share a lot of things for transparency. And I can tell you that good quality photos, without those being published, without the awareness around the world of what is going on, we could not bring in donations ourselves. So
Hmm.
when you're considering, like Natsec just said, that drone paid for itself tenfold, we see that when you guys are putting out good quality content and you guys are risking your lives, that helps people become more aware of what's going on. It helps people see the truth of what's going on, and it makes more money come in donations to save lives. So investing in this is something that we are well aware of, that it will help. So I know that it feels awkward to ask for money, or it feels bizarre, and you're thinking, like you said, Saphryn, who deserves this $1,000 more? But if you bought that lens and you got out that content, you don't know who you are going to inspire to make a $2,000 donation, or which business is going to drop 20,000. You don't know that. These photos, if there were not people putting out photos and amplifying what is actually going on there, we would not be able to, as volunteers who are fundraising, bring in the money that is needed for the life-saving aid that we deliver. So please
Right.
don't feel awkward asking for money. We all play a part, and you are saving lives, because without these photos and these good quality photos, we would not be able to raise the money for the aid that is needed. So I'll shut up now because Aaron has had his hand up. But
Yeah,
That's
we're gonna go to
awesome.
Aaron, but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
we'll go to Aaron. But I'll say one thing also is I have a person who I was very fortunate to work with today who is considering how, as a Ukrainian, she can be helpful both to people who are learning language and also being part of you know, the moment that's needed from both of us. And today she helped me do 4 interviews, and it would be very nice to walk up and say, "Hey, thanks to the listeners and the readers of this, you know, and the people who saw the video, you know, we were able to generate this amount of money for you. Thank you for doing the translations on it so everyone sees it." In fact, we have one video. I'm so proud that we get to do something that's totally not what I thought we'd be doing. We have a video that's going to be entirely in Mandarin, translated for everyone from and we're actually going to probably be doing a series of stories on the Chinese community here because of her. So wouldn't it be nice, instead of me not worrying about what I have in my life, the donations you have come through, I can go to her and say, "Hey, look, here's some money on the table. Let's really focus, and you don't have to worry about, you know, rent and food right now. Just here's money in your pocket. Help me tell the story that's important to you." And there's a lot of Ukrainians like that. Like, this is why we've been told some of our smarter friends, let's build a thing so that they get paid. Because I know, being here, I'm dedicated to staying here. I will give them
Yeah,
a camera. I will give them microphones. I will teach them how to do this, and you know, that money can really tell the story, like Cindy just said. Um, for
absolutely.
funding, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was thinking the mission for me. People, a lot of people ask me, like, why are you here? What are you trying to do? Because I've been here for an extended period of time, and people start wondering. And the whole mission is to be a force multiplier. And I don't think I'm there yet, but that is the goal. Like Cindy said, to document what volunteers are doing, the whole volunteer gamut, and all of the work that they're putting in to create peace. Now, when I say volunteers, I really include the military in there, because there are people who dropped everything that they had, beautiful lives that they had, and they dropped that to come here to fight in Ukraine, to fight for Ukraine. Um, and so the whole volunteer gamut, and to become a force multiplier for them, you have to really be able to deliver them some essentially epic photos, because you're contending with all kinds of really epic media that's out there, really really moving footage of different issues out there, and you try to bring attention to this topic. um, that's not, yeah, I don't find that to be easy out here at all. um, yeah, that's even if something that's happening in front of you is just so either horrific or moving. Yeah. Great, now you have the shot, like what to do with it and how to manage that. That's really difficult. But that is the goal, to be a force multiplier for all of these organizations, to be even invited by organizations or battalions who are trying to raise money for drones,
Yeah.
organizations raising money for ambulances. Like, hey, can you follow us and can you publish a bunch of photos about us? Um, I've been invited a couple times, but that's not a daily occurrence. I'm not there yet, like I said. But that's sort of the short term dream here, and I want to get there quickly, but I have to be patient. I got to be
I
patient.
appreciate that. So let's go to if Emily, do you mind if Aaron goes and then you? Because I see your hand up.
Aaron left.
Aaron's right there.
Aaron goes first.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you, Emily.
Sofri, it's great to speak to you. An honor to speak to you. I'm host of the Bauman Report, military analyst and military historian, autism advocate. Wanted to ask you, what do you guys have problems with the drones with the cold weather with the battery? Do you need like replacements of batteries?
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask.
So not just drones, but that's an interesting question because I had to deal with cold weather in year before. Have you had any mechanical issues because of the cold?
Um, I don't know if it was the cold or the water.
Hmm.
Late, mid and late October was super cold here in Ukraine. It was pretty much the same weather it is now. Just it doesn't dip below freezing. Um, Super cold. Uh, the battery life, I definitely didn't have a lot of battery life. It looked like, um, while I was in a position in a hole essentially with three other soldiers. It was a frontline position, and it rained uh, very hard that night, and all of the water, uh, or a bunch of water, got into the trench. And during that time, my the back of the camera, the screen on the camera started glitching. It started turning on and off.
Oh, oh,
And this was in the this was in the dark. I mean, thank God we had a small poncho above all of us, which was not at all enough. So we were getting drenched anyway. But I don't think much light went out, and that freaked me out for sure. I was like, oh yeah, okay. So if your gear starts glitching, um, that light source might literally give your position away. So
yeah,
it's a yeah, a super scary moment. I've had my
yeah.
library
That's
fail,
that's a.
my Lightroom
Oof.
library fail on me, and it was the cloud version of the library that failed.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, it was a rough situation to fix, but I fixed it finally, and so I think gear wise I'm back to sort of where I need to be, which is a comfortable place. I have enough batteries, I have enough storage space, and I have enough.
How many batteries do you, based on, I've been thinking to ask you that, how many batteries do you have with you and your kit?
Um, I keep a small sling bag that just goes everywhere with me, essentially.
Uh-huh.
And in that sling bag, there's 2 extra batteries.
Two?
Yeah, just 2 extra batteries.
You
I
know how
roll with
many I
one
carry?
camera, so you don't need much
I
to.
carry I carry 8 batteries, fully charged at all times.
Wow. I mean,
And
if you
I
have
can tell
two,
you,
so the idea about the 2 batteries is
yeah,
if you go out for like you're going to the grocery store, and then you have to go visit a person or help a person out. Maybe it's a volunteer that you're rolling with. It's like a 2-hour ordeal, let's say. And in those 2 hours, if something were to happen where, like, oh yeah, you're not going home for another 4 hours, then at least you have some battery to carry you through. That's
right.
the idea. If you're out there for over a day and you've burnt through three batteries, the one in your camera and the extra 2, you probably have bigger problems to kind of figure out. So in my small kit, I keep 2, and then in my sort of like computer sling bag thing, I keep another 2. Yeah, so I take 4 with me at any given time, 4 extras.
Yeah, the reason why I'm glad I have 8, first off, I have a book match set of Lumix cameras so that if I ever have to do 2 cameras, but I had 4 days where I couldn't really get to a charging system that was reliable. And I literally did get down to those last bits when I had to tell the team,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
if
three
you
four
want
days. Yeah,
anything else, I have to charge. And additionally, smart media cards. I was like, oh, there's no way I fill up. Yeah, there was actually, again, it was in one of those periods where we went. It was late January into February where I was everywhere. I was constantly like it's almost like waking up. Am I in Genebro? No, you're in Kherson. Oh, I'm in Kherson. No, you're in Donetsk. What? So yeah, those last 4 weeks were quite a buster. Emily,
yeah, yeah.
thank you for joining us, and thank you, by the way, to a really nice crowd that was doing fundraising earlier. Big love for you. It was a matter of timing. We finally got to get this interview, but you guys did fantastic, and I see a few of you here. So high five to you. Thank you for what you were doing. Emily's one of them. Cindy. So go ahead, Emily. That's my
Yeah,
big props to you.
it's funny. It's funny because I was about to ask Saphryn what kit he uses, and he just answered that. So I feel silly.
That's okay.
But thanks for being here. And my next suggestion was my friend, my personal friend Simon Ostrowski did a series called Selfie Soldiers, which really
Mm.
put a light on this, to put it funnily, on this subject. And have you seen the series?
Oh, I don't know if I saw that. I actually saw his other device. Did you see some of the stuff from Simon Saphryn? He actually, what he's
It,
really well known for is all of his Vice coverage in 2014. He did the best coverage in many ways. I can't think of someone who did better than he did.
Wait, are you talking about Russian roulette?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! No, he put out a photo series.
yeah. It's called Selfie Soldiers. It's about how the Russians would take selfies, right, and then put like Polaroids, and then put them on the internet, and Ukrainians were
That's
able
amazing.
to find them based on these selfies. And that's
Right,
actually what
right,
he
right.
won the Emmy for, not Russian roulette.
Oh
Nice.
no way! I had no clue. This is how amateur I am. Wow, he is what brought me to Ukraine.
No
Agreed.
way. Are you
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
no,
I
like
serious?
agree.
his coverage, his
Are you
his coverage,
serious?
and yeah,
Yeah.
and just Vice News coverage in general, but his coverage in particular. He was on both
Oh my
fronts. He
god.
was
Okay.
he
Oh
was
my god,
switching
that's
back
so
and forth
crazy.
on both fronts. And then like his updates, like his dispatches, he called them, right?
Yeah,
Like his dispatches stopped, and and we were all like, where's that?
right,
Well, he was
What happened?
captured in Sloviansk
You're
by the
right, and
Russians.
he
Yeah.
was captured, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, he's a huge part of why I follow Ukraine at all, and he is him and his team, the Vice team that was covering the Maidan Revolution during that time. They're why I'm here. Yeah, I was
right.
just super inspired by that. Wow,
Wow.
do you guys know him?
I
Emily
know
does.
him.
That's
I was
insane.
actually
That's
supposed to have dinner with
insane.
him the night of last year. Yeah.
Is he like frustratingly hilarious?
He's like he's super chill. He's,
Oh, he's super chill. Okay.
he's like
Like
the most relaxed dude
my
ever.
ima-
If you had been
like I
captured by Russians,
imagine.
dude, you'd be super chill as well.
Yeah, holy shit, yeah. But I imagine just like sitting in a room with if I were to speak to him, he'd probably be hilarious, but really like frustrating. Like he'll I don't know. Yeah, that's how it'd be fun. It'd be super fun.
Well, come to Connecticut and we can arrange a get together.
Amazing.
Yeah, he actually he sets the standard for me of how you should be in front of a camera and not. Um, I
Right.
like to film with people who do not think of themselves that way. That are authentic. The 4 segments, 5 segments we did today are fantastic. Katerina did a fantastic job because she's just a very straightforward, smart, brilliant person talking to another person. You're not caught up in someone being, especially, and I don't mean to insult big media, but like when someone from BBC, CNN, that level comes in, and they come in and their entourage. It really sets an imbalance for the person who's about to share stories. And this last year,
Hmm.
some of the best moments I had were putting my friend Andrei Kononenko in front of a camera and just say, "Here's a microphone. Go talk to Mustafa Zhemilev. Here's a microphone. Go talk to this person. Here's a microphone. Go talk to that person." And he did fantastic because he's a common sounded person when he talks to you. He's not common when you talk to him as a person, as a friend, because he knows so much, right? But he's so unassuming in the interview that he's able to be a vehicle between you and the person he's talking to, and that's huge. And Simon has
Right.
that ability while being also he's a very charming person. He has a certain charisma about him when he's talking.
He really
Um,
does.
yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not it's not arrogant like I see with
Right.
some people doing that thing.
It's
He's
not
so
look. It's
arrogant.
not look, mom. I'm here. It's not any of that.
No, I mean
Yeah.
it's like I'm gonna put someone on the hot seat. Alex Marquardt asking Jenna Pavlio questions in front of me in Avdiivka. It's like, "Hi, we're CNN. I'm Alex, and here's my microphone." And you could just see the look on Pavliok's face. It was like, yeah, yes. If they come in from the north, we're ready. Yeah, if they come in from there, we're ready. Dude, we've been fighting them for 8 years. It was that kind of moment. And you like Marquardt's actually a very seasoned journalist. I'm using him as an example because it was an odd moment. Someone like Simon made that a lot more approachable. And like I said, for me, he set a model that if I were to do that, stand in front of a camera, I would probably try to at least remember how he did it. Yes, and I do appreciate his particular
Hello,
flavor of
nation.
arrogance because it's very similar. So
Well,
anyway, what's
it's
up?
necessary arrogance, right?
Right, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. What can we do for you tonight? What's on your mind?
Hello, hello. Nation. I want say talking about Russian and Ukraine war, if you let me. I'm from Turkey, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm Kurdish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Kurdish, and I see him and Ukraine friend, and I want Ukraine soldiers and Ukraine people's congratulations, because you are very, very big nations. Yes, and you have so lucky, because you have very, very good soldiers. Thank you so much, nation.
Thank you. And also, let me add something, because it's different than our topic tonight. But we were having a discussion last night about, someone asked me, what did I think of Turkey's current situation related to, um, the conflict between Russia and them, because there's this weird, they have friend and enemy moments in life, and how Turkey has been a broker for good things for Ukraine that I don't know a Ukrainian that would deny, and has been like, wow, very good that Turkey does that. But when it came to UN blocking over the traditional bullshit with Kurds, I'm always on your side. Just so you know, I just want to say that as a caveat. If you run into me in spaces again later, I'm very pro Kurdish. My
Thank you
answer
so
was
much.
essentially, yeah, my answer was essentially in that capacity, was like, so which flavor do you want me to talk about? Because ultimately I'm going to default to a pro Kurdish position on. So thank you for joining us. So let's do this. Actually, I'm going to wrap up a few comments with Saphryn, and then we may do another one of these. But it was sort of what I really
Could
wanted
I?
to do, was talk about a reflection of the last year, in the sense, are there, um, if you were to summarize one or two lessons you learned as a person doing this, and specifically related to photography, and the job, where do you think you are now that you weren't last year, and how will that help you in 2023 do your work?
Oof, what have I learned essentially?
What did you learn about yourself this last year? What did you learn from doing the work, and from, I'll give you an example from me. Do
I've
you want me to
learned.
start? Go ahead.
No, I've learned that, like the history. Sorry, just really, really quickly. Uh, I just have to. I just have to confirm. Like, Sarah, are you okay? With the earthquakes?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes, thank you so much, Sapri. I'm okay. I'm not near the earthquake area, so I'm okay. But I lose my friends and my family member. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm good now. No problem for me.
I see. I see. Yeah, my goodness, I've never seen any. Yeah, I've never seen carnage like that. It's
Yeah.
unreal what's happening. Like entire buildings. Yeah, it's unreal. Um, the second thing I wanted to say to Serhat is there's a really cool volunteer, um, or was a cool volunteer out here. His name is Pete Reed, and he was in he was helping the Peshmerga. He was one of the American forces out with the Peshmerga, the Kurdish.
Yeah. You just lost
Um,
him.
Yeah.
yeah, and he died here in Ukraine as a volunteer. You should definitely check him out. His story, very cool, amazing individual.
Yes.
I've learned.
I'm sorry. I live in Turkey. But actually, the Iraqi Kurds and we are very love American and U.S. Army, because Saddam Hussein was kill uh, thousands Kurds in Iraq, and U.S. Army come to Iraq and saved the Kurdish people. And I want to say uh, we love American people and American Army. Thank you.
And thank you right back. I want to, again, kind of talk about lessons learned this year, and I'll use one example with me to pass the ball back to you. I'll be older brother for half a second. I I'm very much a people pleaser type. I like to see people reach their goals, take the resources I have, help others. And I found I had done that with someone who wasn't the right person to do that with. It took me way too long, nearly a damn decade. So I got very clear about that, and then I had to sort of rethink about different um, biases I had developed against our peers. In other words, someone who's like at the beginning took photos at a funeral, and I just didn't think the photographers were really showing empathy to the families in suffering mode. They were just sort of off to the side. It looked like a fishbowl effect, is what I call it. And I forgive them. That's why I'm not here to judge them. But like it guided how I did things. So when I didn't see something that I would like, I conformed myself to those things. But the biggest lesson was to do what I genuinely knew was the right thing in the right moment, and not keep asking for permission to do the right thing. To sort of get cleared to do something difficult, frustrating, sad, happy, do why can't I cover a good happy thing, that type of thing. Make the choices I really wanted to do. So that's where I in 2023 will definitely be a different person than last year, especially with my damn
That's
camera.
very cool. Especially the what now?
Especially with my damn camera,
With your damn camera, yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've made a
there's a
lot of friends here in
time.
Ukraine with that camera, just taking a shot. I don't know them. Ovasi Instagram, talk. Here you go. Here's my card. We become friends. They tell me more about their lives. I've had cab drivers several times stop and we'll take a picture, and like because they're from Luhansk or Donetsk, and the fact that I
Right,
care,
right,
they want to stop, take a photo. Like, yeah.
right. Yeah. There was a guy who stopped us in Dnipro. He was from Severodonetsk. Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm from there." I'm like, "Whoa!" Like, yeah, it was really cool speaking to him. Um, there is too much I've learned, and then there's too much I haven't really like digested and like made a part of my system. I remember in Zaporizhia when we were documenting a whole bunch of we were at a IDP reception center, like a refugee center, um, and I was shooting photos amongst some of these like really professional photojournalists, and they all have their code, I guess, like what you can do, what you can't do, like stay out of people's shots, and they're all right in their own minds. They're all correct, like all of them.
Uh-huh.
And when you have about 50 to 60 people who are all have their own goals, just scrambling to take photos, it is kind of wild. I was really overwhelmed by that for sure. um i
Have
i
you had to do the elbowing? I actually did the elbowing.
not like hard elbowing or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I did.
There was one guy who was like in my shot completely, almost completely.
Right.
But I just tapped him, and I was like, "Hey," and he was a friend of mine by that point. We had several conversations together
Okay. Right.
before, and so I had known him all day. We had talked all day, so I just tapped him on the shoulder, and he's like, "Yep," and he moved away. And I found myself saying "Yep" as well. Like if someone's like, "Hey," and they'll tap you, and you're like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah," and you just move right out of the way because they're there to do a job too. So yeah, that kind of respect, I think. I don't know all of the code yet, so if I'm in that situation again, I'll definitely be
I
like
have a real
stepping
simple
on
code.
toes.
I'm from Texas, and my attitude's just big enough to get me where I've got to go. I'm
Yeah.
very respectful, actually. We had it happen today. Katerina was doing great interviews, and we had two segments from one side of the tanks in front of St. Michael's, and it's like, let's move around just a little bit, and maybe it'll change how people, want to talk to us. And as we got in this other position, which was perfectly legit to film from, I have someone come up from behind me, British film crew. Hey, do you mind if like we're gonna do this shot over here? Like if you could move somewhere else. And I stopped and I said, "When are you doing your shot?" He says, "At the top of the hour." And they gave me 20 minutes. I said, "I'll be done in 5. Can I do it in 5?" Motion back over you. I said, "Now if I run over, hit me at the 6-minute mark and I'll definitely displace." And he goes, "Yeah. All right, thanks." Turned right around and we did a great set. Now, part of the skill that I had of doing that is I'm a counterterrorism guy who's been on television with 5 seconds left to sort data. I work under the time restrictions fairly well. I did radio for 10 years. I get the timing. The moment he said that, I thought, when are you actually doing your shot? Because someone else might have, a new person who like gives up too quickly, might have said, "Oh," and scrambled at that moment. I knew with 20 minutes, I didn't need 20 minutes. I needed less than that. And the person in front of me doing the interview is, no offense to the guy behind me, far more important. She's Ukrainian talking to Ukrainians, so they can hold. We got the segment. It's done. We moved, and then they did their bit, and we actually wound up with another segment that I think will turn into a longer interview later with a woman from Kherson. Um, so part of what allowed me to do that is I was more in my producer role, which means I have to take care of the team in front of me, and I'm very like mama hawk when it comes to that. But the elbowing was actually it was at the drone strike. I'm not laughing because the drone strike. It was at the drone strike on October 17th, and they kept corralling us to one side to get in to get our various shots. And I was actually live doing a stream with the Spaces crew, so I was sort of telling them things at the same time. And I'm right up on the line. I've already shown my credentials. The officer's just sort of waiting for cue from his command to let any of us closer. When a much younger guy turns around and sort of like drops his camera right up in my face like an elbow, and I turn around and just put my elbow right up in his ribs, and I said, "We can all do that. Don't do that right now." And he looked at me again. I go,
We
"I'm
can all do that.
serious.
Yeah.
I'm serious, man. Like we're all gonna be over there. You put that camera back in my face again like that, and you're gonna get another elbow in the ribs," because he wasn't he wasn't he didn't have to do it that way, and a pro camera guy or whatever doesn't do that way. Um, the reason why I gave myself permission to do that was that if I were him, I would need that. Does that make sense? If that were me making the jackass move, I would want someone to sort of like, hey, um, and I've been in situations where we sort of rotate out fairly politely with each other. It happened yesterday with the speaker of the chairman of the RADA, Ruslan Stefanchuk was actually at St. Michael's when I was there to do other segments, and all of a sudden we had just a bunch of the photographers there. And we got our shot and we kind of tapped each other and rolled out, and everyone was cool. And that's typically what the pros are doing. So that one day, that one kid was not going to do it, and he got an elbow. I mean, he got that elbow pretty hard because he kept sticking that camera up kind of the right side of my face. And I think I even said, "I'm from Texas, homie." Like, it's just my way of saying, you push that camera around too much. And this is foreign press. He was a German guy. He wasn't a Ukrainian. He was a German. I love you,
Yeah.
Germans. Anyway, I'm lying, but I'm telling you the
They
truth.
they a lot of people are aggressive. There's like aggressive Spanish photographers. There's aggressive German, American, all kinds of
Sure.
photographers. Yeah, and some people are like they really, really are aggressive. Like they'll go, like the bus will open up and they'll just go immediately inside of the bus as people are like literally trying to get out of the bus. Like so that seemed to get called out a lot.
Sure.
Sort of like quite like quietly, sometimes aggressively, like in their faces, kind of thing. If they're being way too aggressive as a photographer, some of them are looking for that shot to send to media, and that's what feeds them. So, if it's like kind of jarring for an evacuee, to have a camera like stuck in their face
Right.
immediately
Right.
as they go, you can tell they probably know it. They probably know the stress, like just the amount of aggressive sort of stress that they're causing them. That's that's how some people roll. That's how some
I
people
have
do
a
it.
friend who's a
I can't
story
seem to.
chaser. Well, I have a friend who's a story chaser camera guy in New York. I don't know which, he works with a little company that essentially their footage gets picked up by other companies. So he's just like, he literally lives on a police radio band and out of his car. He's that kind of guy. I mean, he literally will, like, he'll shank someone to get that shot. He's a very aggressive dude, but
Yeah,
he's been doing it for like 25 years.
he's a
He
killer,
knows
huh?
he's a killer. He knows exactly how to get his shot. And I'm not interested in that. I just don't. But anyway, we got Balance, who did a fantastic. I'm glad Balance jumps up here because Balance did a fantastic interview with you, and I'm very glad that
Yeah,
he's here. What's up,
it really
Balance?
was amazing.
You made it very easy.
What's going on now?
You made it very, very easy.
He's cool, isn't he?
I have
He's cool.
a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question.
Loud and
Is he?
clear. Yep.
Oh, you're talking about Saphryn? Yes. Really remarkable.
Yeah, I'm saying
I'm
Saffron's
excited.
cool.
I'm excited to do yours, Chris. I've been creating some of the framework on the questions I'm going to ask you so that we don't hear any stuff that anybody's heard before. So I'm on question 4 right now. So I need about 9 more. Okay, so I have a question with regards to life in Ukraine. So this
Mhm.
question is for actually both of you, if you don't mind. I'm curious to
Sure.
know, in your daily life, as Monday turns to Sunday,
Mm.
how often do you find yourself out of the work and that you're doing and realizing that you're a part of the thread that makes the space to which you're occupying at that moment be what it is? Like, you are part of the life there. So what percentage of your time do you feel that you're part of life in whatever part of Ukraine you're in at that moment? Um, how often do you find yourself out of the work and just generally living life in Ukraine? And if you could describe what's that like, what that's like to us now. I know what it was like a month ago, and I know what it was like 9 months ago. Um, so I know that, but if you could describe what that's like now when you come out of the work. So to define my question better, how often do you find yourself out of the work and just being part of the fabric of living in Ukraine in a country that's at war? And when that's the case, what's it like?
Saffron.
Oh yeah. A lot of daily daily life. A lot of it's like timing when it is you need light. Like outside of photography even. So it's like, all right, so we're going on a mission. Here I don't go on missions every day at all. These days I haven't been going on missions like at all. It's been about a week since my last one. But I just, yeah, regular stuff like, can I go to the grocery? Is that grocery store open until 7? Because if it isn't, I need to go now so that I can do the other thing later. Like there's such little light here, so you definitely have to schedule yourself around that. There's this huge market in Kramatorsk, and they're open. I think you'll find this, but they're open until noon. It, I don't know if that's pre-war or post-war, but it's until noon, and so it's from 6 o'clock to noon, and then they close. So if you need to buy bolts or batteries or a broom, anything, any kind of tools or anything like that, clothes, they have everything. They have everything, but you have to go. You have to go at like 8 in the morning. Uh, yeah, it's you definitely have to schedule yourself here. Um, Another thing I could say is there's a lot of card payments out here. You guys might find that interesting. The 16-digit number on your credit card. Um, that's something that everyone in Ukraine like wants people to know, because that allows you to send them money. So people send money to 16-digit credit cards out here a lot. So you find yourself doing that a lot. And I can never figure out or remember how much exactly I spent, because on the history, In my and Chris, I think this is the same for you. Every like foreigner has this problem. It shows up in dollars, like what you paid. So if you bought coffee, it says like 48 cents or something like that, or 14 cents, and you don't know how much that is exactly. so, so it's hard to keep track. In Kramatorsk laundry, like our laundry machine is broken, so we have to go find a place to do laundry. The laundry place is on the other side of the river, I believe. Um, I can't really walk there back and forth, so I always have to get my friend to like take laundry out. Um, let's see. There's no recycling. It's just one big trash dump outside. Not dump. Sorry, a trash bin outside. You take your trash out there. Um, Blackouts. We haven't had blackouts in a while in Kramatorsk. Thank goodness. Um, I think bigger cities, obviously, because they need more electricity. They get blackouts all the time. So scheduling your stuff around that is hard. But out here, we've been okay. We've been okay with electricity. It's been easy to work on computer, etc. Um, the electricity it does fluctuate though the energy. So what that means is you'll start losing like one light bulb after the other. So I just replaced the light bulb, and now the kitchen light doesn't work again. So yeah, we have to go do that. It's just a repetition of like things like that, things that you don't really expect that will break or not be a thing anymore. Um, there was a really reliable family market close by, and they're now closed. And so, like when there is a blackout or when it's a little bit later at night, um, you'll literally have no place to buy water. Um, so it's always like, do we have enough water for at least a day at the apartment? It's always a thing. Um, Shoot, what else? Yeah, daily life.
Does it sometimes feel like, wow, I live here, like this is where I live, and this, like, you make that sort of mindset switch where it's
Yeah.
something as simple as like a daily life, and you're like, no, no, wait, I'm mission focused. Like, even though you're not on a mission that day, do you sometimes have to remind yourself what your purpose is there?
No, absolutely, absolutely. Sometimes you do. Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, like when I find myself like like hitting my head, not physically, but like, hey, like stay focused. Especially when I'll meet someone new who might have been a really really good contact to have, and I was out buying groceries or doing an errand of some kind. So you're not really mission focused at that moment. Like, and you come back home and you're like, wow, that is actually exactly the contact that I needed for this specific thing that I was trying to do. Um, that's when you're like, damn it, I I knew turning the off, turning the switch off wasn't a good idea, but it's important. I think that off time. Um, Most of your life is off time for most people, right? Um, but yeah,
Not
it's
here.
not here.
Yeah, before we go to Emily, I'll try to give you an answer. We could save it for your space. I'll see if I can save some nuggets for your space. It was funny because when you were asking the question, like, what is off time? Like, is off time when I'm not thinking about how my camera is going to be captured? Is this
Yeah, so I'll
is this when
define it
I'm
for
not?
I want to define it. I want to define it for you better because it's not off time. It's when it's that mindset when you realize you're part of the thread of the community, and then you have to
Yeah.
flip that switch really fast and be like, wait a minute, no, there's a purpose here. I'm here for a reason. So how often does that happen? Does it happen daily?
Well,
Does it happen
for me
hourly?
being part of yeah, for me being part of the community, it has been a fabric for me for months at least, nearly a year. There was a point in time where my closest Ukrainian friends just literally said, "You're one of us," and I was reluctant to sort of adopt that too quickly in any capacity for arrogant purposes, meaning I don't like arrogant people. I don't like the cultural voyeurism of people coming in. No, they just said, you know, you cried enough with us, you laugh enough with us, you play great fucking guitar. That's the quote from one, etc. And you're here, like you're totally, obviously very committed. So what happened for me is that it has literally been a point where I ceased that line, and that freed up the chance to explore even further in a way that I was limiting myself before that, if that makes sense. So now I'm a whole lot less bothered by like in Lviv, I went to a really beautiful market that I've gone through before, but it was really nice to be in there because now I felt more free. And I kind of just wandered through and, oh, that looks good, and that looks good. And I'm sort of like building banter with the people there. And finally, I buy some fruit from one lady, and I end it with saying, "Can I take a photo?" And it's one of my favorite photos because just how, like, sure, I had just purchased stuff. We're being cool, but you know, it's like I'm just used to just sort of letting myself blend in. And then what I did was give myself permission to capture that, if that makes sense. You know, it's like instead of going in there just to capture it, I was doing what I would naturally do and do that. Additionally, um, my camera is a friend to my Ukrainian friends. My camera is their friend. It is there to help them amplify their voices in so many ways that um, however I function in that thread is now symbiotic. Um, and I listen to the permission from my friends to be more relaxed and do that in a way that I was not letting myself do out of respect. And now it's getting more and more like just there is no us and them, it's us. So yeah.
Thank you.
Not related to the camera, by the way. I will say my best buddy isn't in country right now, but we sit around talking about classic rock. We talk about a bunch of stuff that really blends more of the me into the experience, and any of you guys get to come here. Saphryn knows this. You will get woven in. If you if you're not the kind of person to do that, probably don't come because you'll make everyone here feel a little weird because they're gonna bring you in. They're gonna have you singing songs and drinking a bit much and yelling "Putin Hoilo" out the window really loud at 1 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, you gotta be you gotta when in Ukraine, act like a Ukrainian.
Final
Emily,
thing, final
yeah,
thing. Emily,
please.
I have a micro question. I promise to God it's 2 seconds.
Yeah,
What's the travel
go
time?
ahead. In fact, I just wanted to send you a little like hello because I haven't. We
Hi.
missed each other in a space the other day,
Yes,
and
Oh,
we
nice,
keep
nice.
we literally are like two ships in the night. So okay, I have a question. What's the travel time from Kiev to Kramatorsk, and what's the travel like? Like Saffron, I imagine life is very different in Kiev than it is in Kramatorsk.
let's move back. Why would I be able to answer this?
Oh no, I was talking to Saffron and
Oh,
Chris.
No, I totally thought you were asking her too, and I was like, oh damn,
Oh my God, I'm
she probably
sorry.
knows a lot.
Emily, can you give me the exact as the crow flies? No,
no.
for Saffron, how long does it take to get, just to give some illustration or a little bit more understanding, how long does it take to get from Kiev to Kramatorsk? And I imagine life is very different in Kramatorsk than it is in Kiev. Can you touch on that a second?
Um,
6 hours,
so
right?
on the train, it's like something like 7 hours. 7 hours
Yeah.
on the train. It's not hyper fast. There's a lot of there's how many stations? There's like 7 stations or something in between. But the train does work in Kramatorsk, and it blows my mind. It blows my mind why the Russians haven't like shelled it completely again. Yeah, it's mind blowing. But they know we use the train station a lot, and yeah, it works. But 7 hours driving to Kiev, something like 14, um, I think. But I've never made that trip, so I wouldn't know. Um, Uh, wow, life in Kiev. Uh, I don't go to Kiev much, but it there. I thought the driving in Dnipro was wild. I was like, wow, Dnipro driving is just this really wild adventure. Kiev is wild. Um, yeah, it's like LA if LA was like having a mass evacuation or something. Um,
Wait, Safford, I have a comment for you. Well, not a comment. I have a little funny
go
episode.
ahead.
So Simon, I know because you love Simon. Just kidding. He texted me. I was like, he texted me like, "What's going on in early March of last year?" Right? I'm like, "Not much. Really fucking worried about you, right?" And he's like, "The potholes suck." That's all he said. It was all about
Oh
potholes.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Have you been in
Like,
that
yeah.
section between Kryvyi Rih and Kherson yet?
No, I mean he said everything's fine except for the potholes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I'm asking Saffron, have you been in that area between Kryvyi Rih and Kherson yet?
I don't think so. Not in the Kherson direction, no.
Okay, so
We
when
did
you,
drive
yeah,
through Mykolaiv though.
okay. So it's sort of in that northern periphery, like when you're going through Mykolaiv Oblast over. There's this one section Andrea and I drove in the last part of January, and it was 17 kilometers of hell. It was the
I know
same
exactly.
road.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we were trying to wrap around towards Chernobivka, and it just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, have we transferred roads? And this is the point I made in Spaces that I said, "Oh, you guys can look at the map all you want. The map and reality are not in touch with one another because when you're on the road, you're like, oh yeah, we should be from here to here in like no time. Like, no, there will be no. Well, just forget time. This is just a matter of navigating from pothole to pothole.
Yeah, the I'm pretty sure some of the roads we we took this we were going through the Western Ukrainian boonies, like nothing forever boonies. And once in a while, there'll be like a small village. It's like just a collection of houses where people live, and they probably manage the farms. But it's just like nothing. The block post person, we told her where we were going, and it was Odessa. We were headed to Odessa from Donbass, and she was like, "All right, off you go." And she pointed in a direction so that we just went in that direction. It wasn't like the road that we were going to take was closed, but she, in her mind, she thought that was the way to Odessa, so she pointed us that way, and off we went. And it it redirected us, and so we had to correct that route. And the route that we took to correct that route was something like 36 kilometers of just potholes. Like it was, and it was extremely frustrating and new reality. Like you thought potholes were bad until you go down a road like that. It's nothing but potholes. But I think looking back on it, it's a huge sign of. Uh, it's most likely a really big sign of corruption in Ukraine. Ukraine is famously, or was famously, known for being one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. Hierarchies, within the financial system, essentially, like it's built into the business, like 5% for corruption, kind of thing. And like the roads, like these are farmers. Everyone there is a farmer, so like who cares, right? Who cares? These roads are probably government roads, um, and you can tell like the money is not going here, and probably for justifiable reasons, like the amount of traffic that needs to go down this road is minimal or whatever. But it's so damaged to like a point where it's unusable. And
Yeah,
a
I
lot of
can
people have lost their
confirm. I
cars on
can
these
confirm that
roads.
there were some roads that I asked about. I won't mention which city, but one of the cities that wasn't Kiev. And I was like, man, what? And it was in. I expected it further out in the country, but this was in the city. I said, what's up with this? And one of the guys, he goes, "Oh, the money was allocated. And I forget what the name of the person that he sort of said took off with the money, but basically sort of framed the position of how it worked. That someone gets the signing bonus to get it done, and then just doesn't do it. Takes off with the signing bonus. The beauty is that the young people are done with that. They just want that. They want that gone, and anyone doing it, they want them locked up. So old is going to lose to what's new here in the country. Brother, I want to say this was a conversation overdue. I know when we were in one of the first spaces that you popped in, we had a bit of a text, and I said, I want to talk about like sort of juxtapose like what you're doing in this country and what I'm doing to share with the people who listen. How we see it literally through lenses with a responsibility to capture and again brother to brother, I'm proud of you, and I'm always got my eye that you're safe, and I listen to your words carefully. I remember when you were talking about how the fighters around you were using sanitary wipes to clean, and when you were cleaning the dishes that night in the spaces. So we're paying attention to you, and this team that you have listening to you definitely has your back, which is why it was very much an honor of mine to have you come join for a conversation.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, as a fellow photographer, I think it takes a lot of courage to bring another fellow photographer up
I ain't afraid of
to
y'all.
speak.
I seen
It's
my
it's a
photos.
similar experience. It's yeah, but
No, I do it
like
out of respect.
balanced.
It's
If I could just answer balanced,
please.
original question that I think he was asking about the thread, and this I think Chris could agree with me, but it's it sounds really basic because it kind of is, but when you like when your town gets shelled and you're pretty much getting shelled together with sort of everyone there, or what was it? You're trying to watch a really big game of some sort, like the World Cup or something like that. And then your friends are messaging you. It's like, hey, is your internet down? Like, what's happening here? And I was never watching the World Cup, so I never really cared. But I, nothing against soccer or football, but it wasn't the right time. But when you go through these like shit moments in Ukraine where it's like, oh wow, we don't have internet for 2 days, or whatever it is, and you're talking, you go to the local store and they're complaining about it with you. You really feel it's moments like that where you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm really kind of just melding into the fabric of the day to day here. And that's I think usually a proud moment for me where it's like, yeah, I can get closer to feeling what it is to be living your life here, um, going through, walking in your shoes here. Um, and Chris, you're somebody who I think understands that, and that's why you're trying to show that aspect of Ukraine, um, to people. It's not all about like, the boom boom, like you said in the last space, in balanced space. Yeah, like that simple stuff. When you start finding value in that, yeah, you start feeling a part of the thread. And I think your photography, Chris, shows a lot of that.
I thank you, brother. I can say that I try to demonstrate the love that I have for the people in front of me, the curiosity, and there are times where I want to share some of the completely insanely hilarious things that happen. I don't always get my camera on everything, but for instance, the people who dressed up as animals in either Maidan or in Lviv, where they're kind of like asking for money and for photos. I have some funny moments where like they take those helmets off, the big heads. One of them was the kid that dresses up a lion. He was from Poltava. He was in Lviv, and he set it down. It was hot, and he set it down to just take a break. And I just kind of caught him off guard. I'm a street photographer, so I know how to do this. Caught him off guard, got a shot. Showed him the shot later. He goes, "Oh wow!" I said, "Here's the funny thing is the photo doesn't show you that an air raid was going off. That's why it was actually funny every time I see the photo. Is I don't just see him, sitting there as Leo the lion chilling. I see him as Leo the lion chilling with an air raid going off, like nothing's going on. There's a lot of things my camera will never quite capture. I'll know that it happened, and I will probably have to write narratives around certain moments because the camera just can't quite capture. Someone asked this in a photography space. They said something, and I said, "I think cameras lie." And they said, "Well," I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, how do I explain this? Like, I don't believe cameras, but I let them do their job anyway." And it's sort of like maybe that's not an accurate way to describe. Maybe they don't lie, but they're certainly not the entire truth. They're a fragment of the truth in the moment, and it's what they capture that really matters. And it can sort of it can tell hyper truths. So if you catch someone like in micro expressions that are really looking gleeful in a moment that was otherwise not. There are a lot of times where the camera really shows up, and I have photos that I haven't released yet that are I still constantly come through and go, "Oh, I remember that day. I haven't really seen this photo. Okay, how did I miss this one?" And I'll find some nuance of life here that got captured for a moment that will inform my next set of shots. But we'll come back and we'll do a supplemental because unfortunately this war isn't over and there's more to do and there are other responsibilities. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you everyone else who jumped in to have questions with our good brother. Again, don't be afraid to give brother a tip there, so he can help make sure things are flowing and stay focused on the task. I know I speak for him and I both that we do the task first, and then when money comes in through donations, we go, "Oh wow, cool." And there are no numbers that are too small. I heard someone the other day say, "Oh, I could only give." No, that actually is fine. Just the fact that you're doing it, it really means a lot to him and I. So thank you for doing that. And Saffron, we got your setup. Now we're going to do something at the end of this, and we're going to thank our friend Miles who will be coming up because I come from radio and I miss that I can't just run a CD bin and like take us out. So how you doing, Miles? You got your audio and everything. Miles is a genius on this. So this is why it's great to go
Wait,
through.
is he about to play us out?
He's gonna play us out. So the other
What?
day, I can't say who yet. This is still the secret. We have one of our favorite Spaces people was there when I recorded this song the other day with a young man named Ruslan, and we were actually out to record commentary on the 1 year since the invasion. And it was kind of like it wasn't going to happen. So we went downstairs, and this young man was playing really one of my favorite songs that translates as "I Don't Have a Home." It's a lyric line that's essentially, um, especially for buskers. This is a song I've heard a couple of times, and buskers are the only ones who can do that because they know what it's like to stand on the cold street and people throwing coins in there, and Ruslan did a great job on it. So, if Miles, do you have that racked up?
Yeah, is that the second one you sent me?
I think it should be Ruslan plays.
Oh, that was the first one. Okay, yeah, I got that here.
There
You
you go.
want me to start it off?
Yeah, I forget what I sent you on the second one. Sorry.
All right.
What can you tell me what I sent you on the second one? Because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it says Constantine Nebula.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, don't worry about that one. We'll
Okay.
do that another time. That's a great jazz bass player. So anyway, thank you everyone. Good night. I would like if you wouldn't mind listening to the song. It's a really really beautiful song. We'll talk about the lyrics in another space that's coming up soon, where Katya Overchenko and I will be talking about the new movie, Freedom on Fire. Haha, see, there's things coming. And then we'll talk about some songs, and this will be one of the ones I want to discuss. So Thank you, everyone. Again, enjoy this segment. Saphryn, brother, I got you, man.
Справа в тому, що в мене немає дому, і за правилом добро тону, як за правилом добро ремені. Згадаю, за кого я, пригадаю, за кого я став, чекаю на своє премії. Мені просто не мати сісти, написати свою промову. У мене немає дому, у мене немає дому, у мене немає дому. Гей, люди такі, висоти, за день свої бетонні сходи я даю, шикуватись, сохнути людям першу, другу сотвою. Такі люди, такі сотнями там, де ми зі своїми висотками третього самохецями, сповнююся серцями. Справа в тому, що в мене немає дому тепер і ніколи нічого нікому. Тепер ще з ким я ділю свою колу. Хай врешті втім, як у мене був дім, я віддав би його на людей, на котів. Я пошив би усіх, я не люблю котів. Хай люди такі висоти, за день свої бетонні сходи я даю, що ховатись, усохнути людям першу, другу сотвою. Такі люди, такі сотнями там, де ми зі своїм висотками з третього самохецями сповнююся серцями. Люди такі, ми люди такі, ми люди такі. Ми люди такі, ми люди такі, ми люди такі.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.